Almost every person is online right now, either on desktop or mobile phones. The comfort and accessibility of mobile applications are the main reason why opting for mobile over desktop. In 2018, the number of mobile apps downloaded worldwide was 205.4 billion, which is expected to reach 258.2 billion by 2022. This shift made UI UX designing an integral part of any product-based company. UI UX design is a science that works on improving the user experience and usability of the application. Almost every company, including Facebook, Amazon, and Google, invests heavily in it. UI design is the process of transforming wireframes into a polished graphical user interface. This both enhances a product's usability and creates a connection between the end user and the product. A user experience or UX is therefore made up of many user interfaces, which come together in a seamless flow to form a product. The difference between user experience and user interface is that UX is about the experience a user has with the product or service, while UI refers to the aesthetic elements by which people interact with the product. And UX focuses on interaction design, wireframes, information architect, user research, and scenarios. UI focuses mainly on visual design, colors, graphic design, layouts, and typography. Despite the differences, UI and UX are not entirely different. Both UI and UX are crucial to work closely to determine how a product will function and be visually attractive, with each other influencing the other. Imagine you spend months creating a beautiful website only to get the result that people can't find what they're looking for and struggle to navigate. No matter how attractive and aesthetically pleasing the interface is, without user experience, users will become frustrated because of its lack of usability and will leave your site. The role of a user experience designer is to understand the customer's journey. That means understanding the target audience, interviewing customers, defining user flows, and conducting user testing. A UI designer's job begins where UX designer's job ends, and that is at the prototyping stage. They take the wireframes and add visual design to make them more usable, aesthetically appealing, and optimized for different screen sizes. The starting salary of UI UX designer in India is 10 lakhs per annum, and once you gain experience, it will be in the range of 18 to 25 lakhs per annum. And similarly in USA, the average salary is $100,000. There are over 1 lakh jobs available related to UI UX design just in India.
Hello everyone and welcome to this session on UI UX full course. Did you know that most users leave a website after watching it for just 10 to 20 seconds? Over 28% of people uninstall an app with only 2 days of installing it. After seeing this disheartening facts, you're probably wondering why. So researchers asked the same question and they found out that it is because of the UI UX design. So when the UI UX design of any app or a website is poor, nobody likes to watch it. And that's the reason why people stop engaging with a website or an app. UI UX is the most crucial aspect of a business with the potential to make it or break your brand. In this session, you will learn all about UI UX. So without further ado, let's check the agenda for the session. But before we go on with the session, please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon for more updates from Intellipaat. So first, we'll be learning about what is UX design. Then we'll be learning about concepts of UI and UX design. Post that, we'll be talking about design thinking and its stages. And then we'll be learning about divergent and convergent thinking. After that, we'll be discussing about prototyping and testing. And then we'll be covering conducting user research and methods. After that, we'll be talking about creating personas. And then we'll be discussing about elementary sketching and wireframing. After that, we'll be talking about principles of interaction design. And lastly, we'll be covering UIUX Career Roadmap. So that's all with the agenda. Now let's start with the session.
Let's understand what is use UX and how it is different from UI. Okay, so user experience design is a process of enhancing user satisfaction with a product by improving the usability, accessibility, and pleasure provided by the interaction with the product. So what UX designer does, it design a product in a way which provide a pleasure, satisfaction to the user. Okay, so that's the UX design. And to be able to do that, he or she applies a well-defined process of UX design, right? It is not just like anybody can just start it. There is a well-defined process of UX design, which we will learn later. UX design is not just about making a better UI, but UX design is more about empowering people to achieve more and better. Okay, so what UX goal is, it is not just to make a better interface, but it is to empower people to complete their task efficiently, quickly, and satisfactorily. So that's what is UX design. Okay, so concept of UI and UX design. So once again, I mean, this is the same definition, like user experience design is a process of design team used to create a product that provide meaningful and relevant experience to the user. This involve the design of an entire process of acquiring, integrating the product, which not only include the task flow, but it also includes the the branding of the product also, because the identification is also very important when we are into the market. So all these things are taken care of: usability, branding, and the function, like what kind of function or features we have added into that product application or whatever. So that's the about the design. Now, how this concept has come. Design is arguably the defining human endeavor that separates us from other species. So apart from laughing, the second thing is designing, which separates us from other creature on this planet. No other creature on this planet usually can laugh, right? Except human. Likewise, design is also to be done only by human. It is not a cup of tea of the other species. We have started using tool from ages, like from the beginning of the so the civilization. So and that's how the design started actually. The history of the design, like the known history so far, it came from and it started by Roman architect when they were creating those buildings. So they are not creating just for aesthetics. They're also building those building for the user need. Like they first understood who are their user and what kind of building would suit them. So all those things started right there from that time. Now coming back to the computer, because we all are learning, trying to use this design approach in the digital world. So coming back to this is very important. If you will remember, like way back in 1780s, it used to be codes which we used to interact with the computer. Like if you want to have something out from the computer, you write a command, you type a command, and then computer give that relevant information to you or data to you. Then came mouse actually, and then came the icons or windows, and that's when the UX UI skill set requirement of UX UI skill set started. From that time, earlier it was the only engineer who used to type command, and computer used to respond. But on the advent of the graphical interfaces, the GUI, as soon as it came and the mouse came, then that's how the advent of this user experience design came into the picture. Like you must have, I don't know whether you people have seen this interface. I have seen when it was a time of DOS, or then the initial stage of Windows, when icons came into being, the frames came into being, the mouse started working. That's where the computer become the layman commodity also. Like it is the household, it has started becoming the household thing. It has started becoming the use of the layman instead of the known engineer, the engineers who know how to operate. So when it is started to be used by the layman, that's where the how to approach to perform the task by a layman, a design is required. That's how the UX design came into the picture. You'll also notice that the originally HCI, which is the human computer interaction practitioner, those were it used to come from the psychology field, but now it is not only psychology, but the content from any other field. People are coming with their applied knowledge. They are becoming expert, and they are doing a very good job also in this field. In today's world, when we have so many devices, different kind of devices, not only laptop, but we have tablets, we have mobile, not only devices, but we have different technologies also. Like we have augmented reality, we have artificial intelligence, we have machine learning. All those things have come into the picture. The design thinking has become even more important right now. Okay, let's move on to a talk by Don Norman, he's telling that design is not just dealing with one product, but thinking before that product and even after the product service is given. The whole scenario is, the better approach to the design. There is a term called CX, hope many of you must be knowing, which is called customer experience, which talks about not only about the better design during the product uses, but even before that and even after that when we need require to troubleshoot, all this time. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, let me see. Yeah. Okay, let's move ahead and talk about. Okay, let's learn more about the concept of UX UI design. Let us also understand when we are talking about UX design that it is not just graphic design interface. It is about usability, it is about psychology, and it is also about sociology. So this thing, study of all these four things combined together, and when we are approaching or designing a product, that's makes it a user experience design rather than just one graphic design or GUI design. That's not the UX. The UX is also about usability. UX is also about understanding the psychology of the user, and UX is also about understanding the demography of the related users who are going to use that product. So it's a vast subject. Sometime let me also tell you that there are so many successful UX designer who even cannot draw a line, who do not know how to use Photoshop, who do not know how to use Figma or Sketch. They have never gone to it. They are also successful UX designer, because that's a different thing. That's what I wanted to explain, that it is nothing related with GUI or UI design. It is about the psychology, about the understanding, research of the people, of the demography, or the testing or understanding the usability of that product or material or services. This whole thing is about UX design, right? Okay, let's move on. Design thinking is the most widely used term right now in UX design. Okay, it is nothing but it is just an approach which will help to create a better product, a better commodity, a better service, a better process for the users, right? So whatever we are talking about so far, UX design, we can only achieve with the help of design thinking. What is design thinking? Let's talk about it. So design thinking is a term which is brought into the market by Stanford University first. They came up with this term, and they are still doing good. Actually, they are still working on in the professional world, Stanford University. So design thinking is the overall process, through which we write from the problem and ending up to this giving a solution to that problem is gone through the all these stages of design thinking. So we have 5 stages of design thinking. First is empathizing, second is define, third is ideate, fourth is prototype, and last is tests. So in the first phase, what we do, we try to understand from the stakeholders or the originator or the producer or the financier of financier of the product, that what exactly they want, what is their business goal. Once we understood from them, we go to the user, we try to put ourselves into their shoes, having the empathize with their problem or pain areas, and by understanding their demography, their education, their behavior, their needs, all these things we capture in this during this phase of empathize, right? Once we have done this, we go to define phase, where we study, where what we do, we just go into the market, we capture all the competitors, we capture our business goals again. We also study any other aspect which is already the data which is available in the market about this problem or the solution which we are talking about. All those things are well defined during this phase. Then come the ideate phase. So once we have empathized and we have defined the problem, on that problem, the third phase is ideation, where we try to create a solution with the brainstorming or many other method which we will use later on. Once we have got some idea or solution, this we create a prototype, and this creation of prototype could be digital, where we are creating wireframe, or interactive prototype, high fidelity prototype, or whatever, or if it is a physical product, we are creating a kind of a MVP product, and that product then go into the fifth stage of test, and we go to that user whom we have empathized with, and run that product with them and try to understand whether that prototype is solving the problem or not. It can happen that we will have to pivot from this stage when we have done the testing. I mean, like, we will have to entirely change the whole product, or we will have to just take a feedback and improve this prototype and try to make it a mature product, right? So that's the 5 important stages of design thinking, which we run through the whole before it goes to the engineer for the development. The UX designer exercise all these 5 steps and create a solution. Okay, it could be a hypothesis based solution also, but we will test it, we will further improve it, and then we will then it will go into the production. Once it is created, QA will run over it and see whether everything is perfect and quality is checked. Then it is launched into the market, right? So that's how the design thinking. So when you are a UX designer, you are the pioneer, you are the opener, you are the Sachin Tendulkar, right? You need to start working on the product. You need to give a idea, or what feature should be added, what should not be added. All those things will be decided by UX designer. Once this is done, then it will go to the engineer. Okay, and then we go working on a solution area. So these 2 are talking about problem, these 3 are talking about solution. Okay, that's how it is. Let's move on further. This is the Stanford University design approach. But look at some other organization, they have further reformed it. Like IBM is also one of the pioneer in using design thinking. Actually, if you look at their product, they do not call it a laptop, they call it ThinkPad. So there's their motto, their prime word is think, actually, if you look at it. So IBM gives a lot of emphasis on design thinking, and they further improve their design thinking process, and they give a different term to it. Like, their empathize phase is understand, their define phase is heal, their ideate phase is explore, and prototype and test phase is evaluate. And they also included 2 more entities to it: sponsor user. Sponsor user are nothing but those users who are relevant to this problem or this product. And playback is actually including the other community, like stakeholders or the engineers. They also should understand what exactly designers are doing. So playback is the process where they come onto one page. designer, stakeholder, the business people, and the engineer, the feasibility. So all these three people come together and understand the whole solution for this product, right? And then come the prototype, which is run in evaluate phase with the user. That's how it is done in the IBM design thinking. If you look at this diagram, you will further understand it. Like, empathize is nothing but developed an empathy for your user by understanding people through interviews, observation, or any form of contextual inquiry. So whatever user research are done, it is done in the phase of empathizing. In define phase, what you do the documentation. You create personas, you create empathy map, you create scenarios, you create the market research, all those things. Hill is nothing but defining the problem, the what we need to do, that thing, declaration of intent. What it tells it tells where to go. It does not tell the solution, but it just tell where to go. We'll further understand this thing. Ideate phase is nothing but we are trying to create a generate idea here, and generating a hypothesis around what would be the to be scenario. That is ideation phase. Sponsors user are the real user. Include them into the playback. These are the persons whom you are taking interview, and you are also using them in the testing. So these are the sponsor user. Okay, playback is aligning the other team with whatever you are doing, like your stakeholder, your client, your engineers, all those things are aligned in this phase. And test phase is when you're running your prototype with these users. That's the test phase. And you're not only just testing once, it could be many stages. Like you keep on improving on the feedbacks, right? That's the prototype stage. Let's move further to understand with an example. Hope you guys must have, and many of you might have attended the introductory sessions, and where we have tried to explain this example of implementing design thinking on a particular problem. Let's take an example of WhatsApp. So WhatsApp came maybe around 2 decades back. At that time, whenever we want to talk to other person, what was available was just MSN and Skype. And to use Skype and MSN, you need to register yourself. You need to add your friends or circles into it. But the problem at that time was that the smartphone were new and their user were laymen. They were not very tech savvy guys. It is very difficult for them to register themselves or maybe add a friend. So this was if you look at this design thinking approach, what you will find when you're empathizing this, persona, you'll find that the user of smartphone create a new kind of user who does not possess much expertise in phones. It is tricky for them to create account and add friends. So this is what we have. When we put ourselves into the shoes of this user, we found out that this is the main issue with this kind of user. So what is the hill or define phase? So what problem we could define? Create a chat application of mobile that does not require creating an account or adding user. Okay. So that is the overall problem we could define, that we need to chat on application without registering, without adding user, right? That's the define phase. Similarly, the hill is also the same. Like this person, which we have just taken an example of, can chat with his friend and his family without creating an account or even without adding friends. Okay, so this is a hill. Now, what is the other stage? Ideate. In ideate, we are trying to find out a solution. Okay, that's what we understood in the previous slides. So what we do here in the ideate phase, what we should do when with this guy does not know how to add friend or register, what should we do? The ideation, the idea generated was use SMS and phone number instead of account creation. Use phone number and ID or from the directory of that cell phone to create a friend. That's the ideation. Okay, that's the idea came out. The sponsor user would validate the solution applicable for them. So once this ideation is done, the sponsor user will validate whether it is good or not. So what we do for that, we create a prototype, a wireframe, with this whatever radiation we have thought of, and we go to the user and we say use it and tell us how it is working. User will say no, I cannot find out. Then we further improve our prototype and keep on testing until we get the satisfactory result. That's the test phase and prototype phase. Okay. And the playback phase comes when we are explaining everything. Once we have discussed with our user, we found that solution is working with the user. We came to our development team and offering management and say that this is the solution for the problem you came to us for, and this is how it is working. Let us know whether it is possible for you to create a solution around it or not, because feasibility is very important. Whether technologically it is feasible or not, whether business wise it is viable or not, whether it is making sense to put so much of money into it or not, that we need to align with these people. So this is also one of the important phase, right? Once it is done, then only, remember, then only it goes to the development team to work on it. Why I'm saying remember? This is a misunderstanding that any product is produced by engineer. No, you see so much of hard work done. All the slide, who did it? The UX designer, who could be an engineer also. But it came to the development team on a very later stage. Once we have ideated, once we have empathized, we have defined, we have ideated, we have aligned, we have prototyped, we have tested, it is ready. User are saying, yes, it is looking good to me. Then only it goes for the production. You see the hard work done by the UX. You see the importance of the UX. You see their pioneer steps in the whole product lifecycle. This is where you are fitting in. That's why this skill set is so important. Okay, and let's talk about in detail, go into the design thinking in detail and talk about these things. Observe and engage the people for whom you are designing a product. So this is the first stage of design thinking when we are empathizing, when we are trying to understand our user. We are trying to use different way to understand our user. One of them is observe and engage. So what we do, so first, there are many approaches when we are trying to empathize our user, when we are trying to understand our user, there are many approaches. One of them is natural environment. Okay, what we do here, what we do in empathize stage, we try to understand our user, who they are, who's those people are, what they're trying to do, what are the hindrance they are facing, what are the problem they are facing, right? So this is what we are trying to understand during the empathize phase. And how we will understand those things? Through these approaches, different approaches. Natural environment approach is what? We just, we don't call the user in our office and say, hey, how do you do your work? Let us know and we'll tell you how you can do better. No, we don't do that. We go there. You go out of our office. We sit where the user is doing their work and we observe how they are doing. And we try to understand where they are frustrated using, what is why they are doing it. All those things we are doing in their environment. For example, when we are creating an interface for a ATM kiosk, you need better to be in that environment. Like a ATM interface, when it is at a bus stand or a railway station or airport, there will be a lot of noise. There is an environmental ambience, many factors like light, or maybe you don't have a time, you're rushing. There is a lot of noise there, security issues. So all those things will only be observed when you are right there. That's why we talk about natural environment. So there are few applications, there are few products which needs to be, we need to go out there in their natural environment of the user and try to understand their problem there only. That's called the natural environment, right? Now go to the next thing, which is observation lab. So sometime what happened, instead of going to a natural environment, we try to observe our user or empathize with our user in the laboratory kind of environment, where we artificially create a lab where we make the person sit and we observe before the, over the glass or maybe mirror, which is a two-way mirror or one-way mirror rather. And we observe the people and see how they are working without them noticing that somebody is watching. Okay, so advantage of such thing is that we can comfortably, without any hindrance, we can see how the users are performing their work or facing problem. But the disadvantage is it is very expensive. You need to have a lab for that. Okay, and second thing is it is still not natural. Maybe user might be knowing that somebody is watching me, so his or her action might not be the natural reactions, right? So those are the, but it is having advantage also. In some cases we can use this also. The third is day in the life kind of observation. What we do, like if we are creating a solution for a logistic company, maybe we will go there and we write from the beginning when the truck are moving in, the loading unloading happening, people are doing different work, we are observing everything there and completing the whole life cycle of that thing is run through us, run in front of us actually, like loading, unloading, registering, uh, driver going there and where, whatever, everything is observed there. So that is day and life kind of observation which we do. Okay, let's move forward. So this is about the approaches, different kind of approach of empathizing or understanding the user. This is the kind of format or the template which we can use capturing the data of the user. We can have three column in this template. In the first column, we talk about what exactly this user is doing.
Just a quick info, guys. Test your knowledge on UI UX by answering this simple question: which of the following is not an example of a context research method? Number 1, field study. Second, dairy study. Third, usability text. Fourth, contextual inquiry. Comment your answer below and subscribe to Intellipaat to know the correct answer. Now let's move on with the session.
Okay, like write concrete observation about the person was what is he's doing. Use descriptive phrases and objective in the first column. The second column is about how this person is doing that task, where he is facing problem, where he is looking frustrated, why he is doing certain thing, if he's doing certain thing. Those all those things are captured in this column. And the third thing is why he is doing it, how he is doing it. And then the third column is why he is doing it. All those things are captured, and this will be later used for synthesizing or for defining the problem actually. Let's move ahead and talk about point of view, understanding the problem and problem definition, and designing the right solution for that. Okay, usually this phase comes after when we have taken the interview of the user. First, we decide who are our user, and then we take interview or observation or whatever exercise we have just explained. Whenever we have done it, we come home with the data, and then we synthesize that data, analyze that data, and then we define the overall problem. What exactly is the problem we are trying to address by making this product? Correct. This is a very important thing, which is called point of view, or we can say understand the problem definition. Okay, so how we will do it? Immerse ourselves in the data we have gathered about our user, synthesize the data, organize the sort insight into the theme and flow, meet with your people to develop your POV, generated POV statement. So not only once you have collected all the data while interviewing the user, you are asking other people also to join, and they also have their own thought process on the problem definition. And in this phase we define the problem, that this is the problem and this is the product we are going to create, the service we are going to create will be around it, this problem. That is called point of view, the problem definition, POV, point of view. That is very important actually. This is the first step which we need to define. It is critical actually, very critical. If you're rightly defining your problem, later stage or all the activity dependent on this, because this is your bullseye. You will put it on the wall while the whole production is happening, right? So this is your bullseye which you need to take care of. Let's move forward and talk about different approaches towards the finding a solution. Actually, this topic is related to ideation phase. Whenever we are actually defined a problem, that first we have actually understood our user, then we have defined the problem, then the third stage, when we are trying to create a solution, there are different approaches of brainstorming and thinking. So divergent and convergent thinking is also one or two of the approaches which we apply during the ideation phase. Now let's understand what is convergent thinking and what is divergent thinking. Okay, convergent thinking, let's not go through all this whatever written here. I'll just explain you in a simple word. Convergent thinking is whenever there is a problem and we have time tested solution for it. Okay, those are, whenever we are thinking about those solutions, those are convergent thinking, just a state conversion, problem to solution. If light is not coming, need to get power. Okay, that's a straightforward solutions, right? If the average is not there of my vehicle, maybe you need to go for some other vehicle which is having a better average, right? That's a direct solution, direct convergent thinking, right? But what is divergent thinking then? So divergent thinking is even more complex actually. Whenever we think about a solution which does not have a straightforward answer, we just think about a hypothesis actually, hypothetical solutions to it. And actually sometimes we take a risk also. We think about many different directions and come out with the solution which is best fitted for that problem. I'll give a simple example of approach of divergent thinking and convergent thinking. In the case, like if you're going to office and you want to save fuel while using your vehicle, or not only while using your vehicle, you want to save your fuel, what would you do? Money is not a constant. So in the convergent thinking, you will buy another vehicle which is very good at fuel consumption. Okay, that's the convergent thinking. But when you are talking about divergent thinking, you will think about the other solution which is out of the box. Like, I will take a house near my office. So there will be no fuel wastage, no fuel usage. I will I'll go with friends. Okay. I will work from home. So thinking out of the box, thinking a different way of creating solutions is called divergent thinking, which is not a straightforward solution, which is a hypothetical risky solution. Let me give you a very live example of divergent thinking. When Twitter came, before that it was actually Twitter was a blog actually. They came first as a blog, but later they changed it into a mini blog kind of thing, and they threw this in the market as a blog, and people started liking it, right? What would happen if you know Twitter might not be like it might happen. I mean, it happens with the thousand of product which got failed. They are thrown into the market. They are not successful. We never hear about them. That's what the divergent thinking is all about. You get a success sometime, you don't get a success. So why to use divergent thinking if it is so risky? It is, most of the time divergent thinking approach is used when you are having no solution in the past. You have no experience of having a solution in the past, but this is the first kind of a problem where you are pioneering, giving a new solution, innovation actually. You need to have a divergent thinking in that case. That is the divergent thinking. Okay, like you can see in the map, like divergent thinking, whenever you have a problem, you think upward, different direction. But when in the case of convergent thinking, it is all facts related. All actually, we already know what are the solution. It is fact based, which is tried in the past. We are just using that as a solution in the convergent way of thinking. This is actually used, let me tell you, hope you are not feeling yourself lost. When we are talking about these kind of thinking approaches, this is the ideation phase in design thinking, where we are trying to apply these things. We will talk later about these things. Okay. So don't worry about it. Let's move on to the next thing, which is prototyping. So this graph explains, in the beginning, you see that you can go in very many directions. There could be many iteration. There could be many pivoting happening. Later, it become less, more focused. Then you have a solid one focused path to follow. That's what prototype does, you know. Like in the beginning, it is quite confusion is lesser than a fixed idea. So that's how it is. Different stages of creating prototype. So before it goes to development stage, this is where we want to achieve. This should be achieved, right? Let's goes to the testing stage, you know, prototype and testing. Okay, so let me just explain few things about testing. First of all, testing, which is usability testing actually, is a very critical stage of the product development. Usability testing should not be confused by the QA check, which happen pretty late in the product development. Don't get confused by that. Usability testing is different and QA testing is very different. Usability testing is done in the beginning of the product development, whereas QA testing is done at the last stage of the product development. So don't get confused. This stage, both stages are critical, but this stage is even more critical, usability testing, because it is where we are evolving the product, the solution, right? Okay, so testing is a major component of hypothesis-driven innovation, which argues that the designer should develop product iteratively in order to reduce risk, prevent overbuilding, and avoiding overspending. Okay, in order to develop product or service or process iteratively, you need to build and test MVP product. Test your product, services, process in a structured way will accelerate learning and reduce waste. Okay, so hope you have understood that once we have created the MVP or the prototype, we go to the user and want to see him how they are using it, where they are stuck in, where they are, frustrating, and where what things are very important, what they want to see first. All those things are being observed and captured and further improved. Okay, testing is a big, vast subject. We will talk about usability testing in later module. Okay, right now to understand testing is good enough. Like it is just testing our prototype with those user who we have targeted, who are our sponsored user. That is our usability testing. Okay, so first of all, let's understand identifying the problem statement. Okay, so whenever you have a problem, what you do, you go to your listed users. Like these are the user I'm going to discuss with them. I'll try to find out what are the pain they are facing, what thing are working good for them, what is not working good for them in current scenario, what is hindering to do their job. All those things with the questionnaire we will prepare and ask the users. So once you have collected all those questions, you put them on the whiteboard. And once you have put them on whiteboard, we try to find out what are the similar information, the similarity between the information. Then we group them together. Okay. And once we have grouped them together in different segment, we will discuss about this later on the right side graph, which is empathy map. I'll talk about it later. So once we have grouped them, then we try to find out what exactly is the problem and what exactly is the requirement and why this requirement. Okay, so that's the identification and writing problem statement. Now let's understand what is the whole user research is all about. Okay, so UX research is right from the beginning. When we start project requirement from stakeholder, we understand the project requirement from our business owners. Then we learn about who are the user and what their need. We gather data in our third step, synthesize, analyze the that data, conducting the interviews, recollecting the surveys, and also understanding the available literature or the online stuff or the computer activities. We analyze all those stuff. Once we have done it, we ideate create a solution. Once the solution is created, it is run with the users. Like we test the whatever solution we have created and then create the final solution. So in a nutshell, you will see that the user research is a two-part: gathering data and synthesizing the data in order to improve usability. At the start of the project, design research is focused on learning about project requirement from the stakeholder, then learning about the needs and goals of the users, Then researcher will, how they will do it? The researcher will do interview, collect survey, observe, all those things. All these activities will be done. And then iteratively throughout the design process, the research focus shift to usability and sentiment. Researcher may conduct a usability testing, interviews users about the process, and generally test assumptions, whatever we have, and improve the design. That's the whole activities we perform in our user research. The purple thing is taking input from the people, and the orange thing is, after the creation of a solution, we are testing it. So giving out. So taking in is purple, giving out is orange. That's how the whole user research can be put into memorable thing. We collect we understand the requirement from the stakeholders. Then we go to the user and understand. Once we have got the data, we synthesize the data, create a solutions, a prototype solution. Then we go to the user and run it. And the solution is matured, we create the final solution. That's how the whole user research exercise is done. Okay, so let's talk about the user research and method of user research. Okay, like the center of our whole approach work is are the users. So whenever we have a problem, we understood things from the stakeholder, then we try to find out who are the real user and how many should be selected. Then we apply these kind of different method of taking the data from the user. One of the method could be interviewing, which is actually you will just ask the users to come at a place and you sit with them. You try to understand what kind of problem they are facing, how they are performing, what are the things which is not met with this solution which is already running, if it is already running.
Just a quick info, guys. Intellipaat provides advanced certification in UI/UX design. This course is developed and mentored by ENICT IIT Guwahati. The course link of which is given in the description below. Now, let's continue with the session.
Then later work on that. This is one way of doing it. Also, please understand that there are two ways of user research. One is called qualitative user research and the other is called quantitative user research. The interviews comes under the segment of qualitative user research. We will understand in next slide further in the coming slide about qualitative and quantitative later on. Okay, the second way of conducting a user research is survey. So survey is nothing but you create a kind of a format, you have questionnaire on that, and you send them to all the users, and user will just take that this is what is good or what is not good. So actually surveys are good for the quantitative research. Like you want to know how many people are using this shaving cream, how many people are using different shaving cream. So those kind of quantitative data when you require to collect is our surveys. These are pretty easy and simple way of collecting data in the numbers, in percentage, you know. So whenever we want the quantitative data about the fact, we need a survey for that. But whenever you want to collect the qualitative data, like how they work, what kind of frustration they are having, then it is interview is a better way of doing it. The third way of doing it is field research. So field research is nothing but you go there into the field, you observe how people are working on an application, and you question them as why they are doing something or why not doing something else, and you collect all those data during those field research. Okay, like there are some example given here that like in airport for booking application, you can observe like how people are working on booking application. Maybe in hospital, you want to see for physiotherapist how they are using the new application. Those kind of data can be collected through this method of field research. There is one more method of field research is called diary study. Diary study is actually when we take up people, tell them, note their activity, what they do day-to-day basis, and give those data intermittently to the UX designer who will collect those data and study how these people are working. Okay, why we are using diary study? We usually use diary study in a very complex processes. Okay, it's kind of a logbook. Maybe if you people have must have seen Avatar film, that Hollywood movie, Avatar. You will see that Jack Sully, you must have seen that. Jack Sully is asked to fill his logbook, right? Whatever he has done in a day, he will have to just narrate all those things in a video, and those are captured. Similarly, in dairy study, we do the same thing. Like, for example, if we are creating an application for automobile purchase, maybe you may want to ask the prospective buyer of the car or other vehicle that they will note down their activities right from their motivation to buy a car, to search how they are searching, to go to the showroom, what kind of experience they have, what kind of demo or what experience they had. Just keep noting down all those activities, and once they have done it, then we will synthesize as how they are doing it, and this will help us to create a solution for them. That is called diary study, right? Let's move further and talk about other kind of user research. So online research is another way of doing it. It is very, very tedious actually. What you do here, you find out a subject, then you go to those blogs, and sometimes you find that people have expressed their opinion that this is better or that is better. What are the pain area facing in certain solutions? So you try to capture by doing online research. The other way of doing research is usability testing. It is little different for whatever we have discussed so far. Usually you will see that interviews or surveys or online research, they all are done before the solution, before the prototype created. But usability testing is done once you have created a solution. But it is still a way of doing the user research, because the solution or the prototype you have created, it is still, we are going to the user and testing it. So it's still part of the user research, right? But it is done after the prototype is created. So usability testing is a way of user research. How to do it? First, you recruit test participant from the. So what we do when we are trying to do usability research, we try to capture those people who are quite new to this prototype or the solution. Okay, because we want to find out whether the kind of navigation we have given is making sense or not. If you will give to the people who are already familiar with the navigation, then your design will not serve the purpose, because those people will somehow find it. But the real test would be with the new user who has not seen this application. So usually usability testing is done with very fresh new people. Okay. There's one more way of doing usability testing is called A/B testing. This is a kind of a usability testing only. Okay. Some people do not think that, do not consider it as a usability testing, but I believe that this is also one kind of usability testing only. Now, what is A/B testing? A/B testing is nothing but creating two solutions for the same problem, you know, just to see which one is working better for the user, whether A is working for them or B is working for them better, or even C or more, you know. So we create multiple solution, multiple prototype for one problem, and we run them with the same user and see which one is working better for them. That's called A/B testing. And while we do A/B testing, we always take care that we are not creating the version of the complete solution. Just one section of the whole solution is created in two options. Okay, not the whole solution, otherwise it will confuse. So we try to make one or two interfaces in two options and try to run them and see which is working better for them. Usually it is done with one kind of feature, like maybe like looking at the account in bank application. That one section is, you know, created in two ways and run it to the user and see which one is working better for them. So that's called A/B testing. Okay. Let's move on to card sorting. Card sorting is usually done, especially in the case of when we are trying to create navigational structure and information architect. What does it mean? Like there is a website which is having a complex navigation, very deep navigation, like Amazon website. It is super complex, right? There's so many products, lakhs of products are there. So there are complex navigation, like how to reach out to the to one particular product, how to segment the different kind of commodities. So just to sort the navigation, what we do, we write the name of all the segments, and on the cards we put before the users and tell them to actually segmentize them and group them according to the way they want it. Okay, we do this exercise with many users and understand the pattern, and then according to the user we create the navigation. Not only we ask them to group, but we also ask them to name them. Like for example, in a banking site, to get a credit card, what should be the name of that segment? We are asking the user to name it rather than we are giving a name to them. Why we are doing it? Because it is better what they understand, what is their mental model. So we are using the phrase which is understandable by the user, rather than, because sometimes, why I'm taking the example of bank, sometimes they use such a phrase which are not understood. Like for me, when I get a credit card statement, it says unbilled amount. Sometimes it is pretty confusing. What is unbilled amount? It is billed to me all the time. Why they are saying unbilled amount? So the easy language could be, these items are not being paid by you guys in this month, which will come next month. Those are unbilled amount. So if it is coming from the user, that is better. So what we do in card sorting, we do two exercises. First, we want them to group the information the way they want it. And second thing is, they should also name it. We are not going to name it. They will give a name to it. So this will help to create a user-friendly navigation, a navigation which is working for the very user. There are two kind of card sorting. One is called open and the other is called reverse card sorting. In the case of first one, it is a fresh thing. Like you are creating a website, you call all the user and you kept a table on the card. You have noted down roughly all the segment. All the information are kept in a stack haywired. Now you are asking your user, kindly group them according to the way you want to see in a website. Okay, this is called open card sorting. What is reverse card sorting then? The reverse card sorting is nothing but when we already have a navigation defined, now we call those users and ask them to alter it according to their way. Okay, please understand, already defined navigational structure is presented to them in the form of the card, and we ask them to shuffle the way which make more sense to them. That is called reverse card sorting. What is the use of reverse card sorting? It helps to create the navigational structure better, which is working for the user. That is called card sorting. Okay, let's move further. Now let's talk about how to recruit those users whom we are going to interview or throw survey or do whatever. So for that, we need to have a screener survey. Okay, the screener survey is nothing but you must have heard this term like screening. Whenever in Hollywood they are trying to find out a new talent, they screen it. They screen the talent and then they see whether it is fitting in the role or not, and then they select those talents. Likewise, in our interviews also, or for our user research, we have a screener surveys. So screener survey is nothing but to try to find out who are the user we are going to take for our research and who are not. Screener survey are essential tool for qualitative research. And while they sound simple, they are actually very tricky, which is why we have dedicated a whole slide to it. Screener survey or just a screener or survey people take before participating into the research. They are made up of a few questions designed to weed out the folks who are not required, who are not intended audience for this the whole design thinking exercise. Okay, so what would be inside this screener survey? Let's understand it. Okay, if you want the right participant, the right kind of users into your research, you will create this screener questionnaire. When you will create this screener questionnaire, please take care of these 9 points. Know your goal, like what exactly you want from this kind of survey. We want that right kind of users should come into it. That is your goal. Define specific target audience criteria. What kind of user you need. In the example of medical application, you want to define, like I want to looking for the real user, like elderly people, the staff of hospital, the children of the elderly people. Those we need to define. Screen for behavior and psychographic of for over demography. Now, so please understand this also very important, that the behavior and psycho is more important than demographic of the user, right? Demography of the user could be like only Asian or what kind of people are there. No, that is lesser priority. The priority, the top priority should be the behavior. What kind of behavior, what kind of education attitude those people are having, less patience, forgetting things. Those are more important over whether it is a Hindu, Muslim, or Asian or whatever. Okay, so we need to take care of that also. Write precise, carefully worded questions. Okay, it should be clear and easily understood. Put your screener question in the right order. First thing should come first.
Just a quick info, guys. Test your knowledge on UI UX by answering this simple question. What is the disadvantage of vertical navigation? Number 1, can accommodate only a small number of categories. Number 2, offers no room for growth. Number 3, is unfamiliar to users. Number 4, requires more space. Comment your answers below and subscribe to Intellipaat to know the right answer. Now let's move on with the session.
What is your name should be first rather than where do you live, correct? That way. Avoid leading or loaded questions. It is very important. Whenever you are asking a question, the answer should not be yes or no. The answer should be a descriptive sentences coming back to you, right? That's called leading question. Okay. Include an open-ended. These 6 and 7 are the same actually. Include an open-ended question to screen for articulation, right? So whenever you are asking a question, those should be open-ended question. What do you mean by open-ended question? The questions where people will have to answer descriptively rather than giving a node. Like if you will ask a person, how is the weather? He will say, yes, good. But you will ask like, how do you feel in this weather? You will find more descriptive replies. So you need to have open-ended questions. Don't reveal too much. It is not the real survey still. This is a screener. Okay, so don't reveal too much. Remember to keep it brief. It has to be brief, it is not the main survey. So it is just a screener. We are trying to, shortlist people for the real user. So this is called a screener, and that's how we create a questionnaire, and then that's how we check them. The second thing is diary study, as we have already talked about it, that we ask the user to capture the activity into their diary on day-to-day basis. And then once they have done it, intermittently, we ask those diary pages, and then we study those diary pages and see how people are doing certain thing. And then on the basis of that, we are making our solution. While taking diary or diary study, we need to take care of few things which are here, like we should explain them everything, what we are exactly going to do, and feedback and follow-up time should be decided, activities should be decided, and there should be a mechanism of monitoring whatever they are doing. Like you are actually able to see their entries intermittently. You should be able to reply or to their question, whatever they have. All those things should be possible. See, again, I tell you that these diary study is not that popular, but it is mostly used when we have very complex processes and we need to improve it. Actually, particularly diary study kind of user research is more suitable for process improvement or process solution. Now come to this, identifying and writing problem statement. Okay. In human-centered design, a problem statement is articulated using a point of view. A POV reframe your innovation challenge into an actionable problem statement containing three elements: the user, their requirement, and the unique insight that explain why this need is compelling, why they need this requirement. So these three things are captured: user, their requirement, and why they need it. These three things are captured. Now look at this example on the right side. David, he disorganized analyst who is good at the what he does, but he really bad about staying organized and following workflow productivity best practices. Needs to save the time he wastes in gathering, in finding, creating knowledge that already exists, because he spent too much of time of the day on activity that frustrate him and prevent him from making money by looking at more ideas. You see that we are capturing the whole problem into three segments in this example: person, his need, and why. That's how we are capturing our problem statement, right? Now let's move forward and talk about qualitative and quantitative researches. Okay, let's talk about this. What are these two things? Conducting research is often a stepping stone when you are writing your thesis or any kind of user research thesis. Choosing the correct research methodology can determine the success and overall quality of your report. It is hence essential to get the initial stage of your research right. In this article, we discuss the research method in detail and help you identify which method should we choose for your study. So there are two kind of, one is quantitative, as we discussed, we are capturing the number. And how we capture the number? We can capture the number through surveys, through experiments, through existing data, through observations, and through content analysis. Through observation also we can do that, okay? Content analysis also. So available content on internet or offline, when we analyze, we can find out the quantity. What qualitative research does usually? It confirms the fact or test the current situation. That is usually quantitative research does. In the other hand, the qualitative research is a method used to understand thought, concept, or experiences of people via interview, focus group, case studies, discourse analysis, literature review. It is basically a survey done together, people's thought and their experience, right? This is what we do when we are doing the qualitative research. We are capturing people's thought and their experience. Qualitative research approach example are like this. How satisfied you are with your curriculum study. Okay, less satisfied, more satisfied. What is the problem? I am not feeling good about this curriculum. This is frustrating. I'm missing something here. All those are qualitative data collection. What is the positive aspect of study program? What are the student feel can be done to improve the study further? You see that all these examples are capturing their thought and experience, and they are open-ended questions. They are not ending into yes and no, right? So those are qualitative. What qualitative research does? It understands something. It may be a concept or a thought or experience. When we are trying to explore the experiences of people in certain situation, then qualitative research is required, like in the form of interviewing people or field studies, those things. Okay, let's move forward. This important thing like creating personas. So when we have interviewed many people, we have analyzed our data, we have done empathy mapping, and then we come to create a persona. User persona are typical users whose goals and characteristic represents the need of larger group of the user. Usually a persona is presented in 1 or 2 page document only. Why? Because we want to see everything at a glance. Okay. Now what we capture into persona, we capture behavior of the user, their behavior pattern actually, their goal, what exactly they want uh, in relation to the problem, not of their life goal, in relation to the problem we are talking, their skills, their education level, their attitude, which will capture whether they are patient, impatient, their behavioral trait, all those things, their background information like education, their families, those actually impact on the creating the solution, right? So we capture all those things. The environment also in which they work, this person operate. So we capture, so we create one, or in very less case 2 pages, but most of the time it is 1 page template we create persona, and we capture all this information about that person, right? Whatever we have discussed here. Now understand why we are doing it. A deep understanding of target audience is fundamental for creating exceptional product. If you do not know your user, you will not be able to create a good solution. So it is very much important that you understand your user well. Okay, that is why we are creating the persona. User persona help a product team find the answer to one of their most important question: who are we designing for? To answer that question, persona is created. By understanding the expectation, their concern, motivation of target user, it is possible to design a product that will satisfy users' need, therefore be successful. Once we capture all those things like their goal, their frustration, their education, everything, then only we will be able to create a good solution, right? Like in the case of this medical application, in our persona, which is the elderly person, we will definitely capture that their readability, their memory is weak. When we will capture this trait of their persona, we will try to create reminder, because memory is the problem. So reminder is the solution. That's why we need to capture all this. I'm giving an example here. So that's how we create a persona with all those things. And once we have created a persona on the available data, we try to create the solution. Let's talk about affinity map. So affinity mapping is putting a bunch of sticky note with ideas on them on a wall, and then grouping them based on the similarity of those ideas. So what we do, we sit in a hall or a meeting hall with all the designer, stakeholder, user all sitting together, and whatever ideas are coming, we are writing them on a sticky note and putting them on the wall. Once we have done it, when we try to group them, we try to create a pattern out of it, right? That is called affinity mapping. Why it is important? This will further this will help in extracting the insight and themes to help to build effectively towards the next step. Like for the ideation, this will help these kind of capturing the information, right? Next, move forward. Here we have talked about empathy mapping. So an empathy map is a collaborative tool. Again, it is a brainstorming way of doing it. We need lot many, all the people, users, stakeholders, designers, engineers, everyone working here. So on the so what like collaborative tool team can use to gain a deeper insight into the customer, which like a user persona, an empathy map can represent a group of user. So it is just, again, we are not talking about particular one user. When we are creating an empathy map exercise, it is about a group of user, such as a customer segment, or maybe the empathy map was originally created by this guy I was talking about, Dave Gray, and has gained much popularity within the agile community. Now, so what we do with empathy map, we whatever data we collect, we divide that data into 4 segments, like what they say, what they feel, the users, what they thought, and what they act, how they act. All those things are captured, and on the basis of this will help us to create persona and further work on the solution. This will help us to understand the user better. Okay. Let's talk about the scenario. Scenario is nothing but how the person will act on your solution. A scenario is a situation that capture how user perform task on your site or your application. Scenario describe the user motivation for being on site on your application, and a question they need the answer for, and suggest possible ways to accomplish these objectives. Okay. Now understand that user is coming to your website. For example, a customer is coming on your travel website. Why he is coming? He has a motivation. He is traveling. So he needs to book a ticket, a travel ticket, a air ticket, and he also needs a hotel. So the workflow would be that he will first search for the available flights from his origin to destination. He will book the flight, he will compare the flight, then he will book the flight, then he will look for the hotel, he will compare the hotel, he will book one of the hotel which he likes. So this is the overall task flow: searching, comparing, purchasing, opting out some option, booking some seat. All those things are part of that whole scenario. So when we are capturing the whole scenario of the related task in a website, that is called scenario. Okay. Why we do that? We need to see where and what places this person is touching our website. Okay, let's move forward. This is about journey map. I'll just give you a small understanding about journey map. Why we do it journey map? We try to capture, like in current scenario, uh, we try to understand in our business where this user is touching the whole thing. Like, for example, if I'm a retailer, like I sell shoes on a website, I have a shoe website. So I will see what this person will do. We will try to find out shoes. He will search shoes. Then he will see kind of shoes. Then he will see price. Then he will see to purchase it. No, all those things are captured in a kind of a story. And then we try to find out in our current business model, what are the things which we can improve to make his experience much better on our website. That's why we create the journey map. So journey map of two kind. One is as a scenario, which shows the current situation, where he's touching. And once we have seen that, and we create to be scenario, where we provide a solution to different problem, where we have gaps in our business. So these are two kinds of journey mapping. The benefit of customer journey mapping is helping you see where customer interact with your business, focusing the business on particular customer needs in different stages in the buyer funnel. Identifying further and customer journey in a logical order gives an outside perspective on your sales process, showing the gap between the desired customer experience and the actually received experience. You see that this is the most important aspect of the journey map, that it capture what actually he wish and what actually is being received by him, highlighting development priorities and allowing you to concentrate effort on expenditure or what matters most to maximize the effectiveness. This is why we create the journey map, to understand the where he's touching, how we can improve our whole process. Just make it as simple as that.
Okay, so I'll give a quick recap and intro of what design systems are. So design systems are basically guiding principles or guides that you use to design a product. So why you use these guides are because you need to keep it consistent with cross-functional teams that you work with. So there could be multiple UI designers that you work with, and you'll have to keep the design consistent. You could probably use a different color for buttons in a particular screen, and the other person might think otherwise, try to entirely use a different theme for the application. Or it could be use of icons. You could probably use a very complicated icon with color, or the other person could probably use a very minimal icon. So in order to avoid these multiple scenarios where multiple people do different things in a product. You actually create a system where everyone follows through the system in creating these, in using these components for the design that you do. So one of the famous or the most used design system is material design. So material design is Google's design system, which you see used by a lot of applications, like the everyday applications that you use, like your Gmail, your Google search, your Drive, your Photos app, and a lot of apps that you have pre-installed in your Android phone. All of those have material design followed. So all the buttons that you see, all the font sizes, the fonts, the colors, all of these are part of this particular guide over here. And these are replicated and used in these applications. Okay, so what all does a design system have? Okay, so a design system has design elements like layout for the design. It has color, it has typography, it has sounds, it has icons used. So just give you a quick example of what it has. Say in type, you basically have a defined set of type. Okay, so here it's going to give you the font that you actually use, you should use, and what is the font weight. Okay, should it be a light font, should it be a bold font, what is the size of the font, and what is the spacing between each letter. So all of this is actually predefined for you. So all you have to do is strictly follow this guide and use these fonts as is. So the same with colors and themings for app design. So there is a set of preset colors that you could choose from. So there will be multiple themes. There are multiple themes available for you, and you could also choose to create your own theme based on the colors that are available. So you could set a primary color for it. You could set a secondary color for it. So primary colors are basically used for trying to use features that in your app that the users use most. You could use primary colors. The users that use features, the features that are used not very frequently, you could use secondary colors and so on. So more details on color and style guide I'll get into later. But yeah, that's the whole idea of having a system. So you have everything predefined for you. So all you have to do is pick and place. So it's like creating using Legos. You just have all the Lego pieces put together, like color, font, and so these are just the design elements. There is something called a component, where you again have all the components defined for you. Say, for example, you have the button defined for you, and what are the different types of buttons that you could use, and other components as well. I'll get to each of these components one by one. So the question is, so basically it would be like a rule book for UI design. Okay. So all this, when creating these designs, they would have strictly followed guidelines of UX principles. And so all of these is actually pre-created for you. So all you have to do is, pick all these pieces of components to build your UI design. So a design system basically helps UI design make it easier. You don't have to create these components on your own. Like, say, for example, this button component, it's just a rectangular, a block with color in it, and then there's a text inside it. So this can be created with any design tool that you use, but then there are specifications for these. Like, for example, you see this curve at these edges, right? So those curves are designed for you. Those curves are defined for you, and then the font size is defined for you, and then the space between letters are defined for you. So all of these are predefined for you, so that you can just pick and use them in your UI design. And for the question, who creates a design system, it could be designers, UX designers, it could be UI designers, or both of them in collaboration, or multiple UX designers who work to create a system. So many companies have their own design system, okay, so which they use to create all the products in their company. Yeah, so multiple designers work in collaboration to create a design system. So these companies have their own designs. For example, Swiggy, for example, has their own design system, which they use to create their mobile app, their app for their delivery agents, and all of that. So all of this, the design is actually kept consistent throughout, so that there is no consistency or accessibility issues that might occur in terms of. So this is not only for applications, mobile applications or web applications. It also holds true for graphic design or print design that the teams do. So this guide basically helps have all of those done with just strictly following these guides. Okay, so let's quickly get into each of these components. Okay, so buttons. So in material design, there are three types of buttons, and they might have different uses. Okay, so this is a contain button. So contain button is nothing but a primary button, in other terms, where this button is used for primary actions in a particular screen. And then there is an outline button, which is the same button but does not have a fill, okay, just has an outline. And this is otherwise known as the secondary button, which could be used for functions that are not very frequently used. I mean, probably used, but not to an extent of a primary button. Okay. And then there is a text button. Okay. So text button is used in cases of very rare use of button, or it could be even used as something that need not be emphasized so much. Say, for example, the function delete. Okay, you don't want the user to use delete so much, so you place a text button there so that the user knows that delete is available for them, but then it's not emphasized so much so that it jars the visual for the user, and that it does not confuse the user thinking that this is a primary function to follow. So there are some additions that you could have to this button. You could probably have an icon to it. So here it's the star icon, but then it could be any icon. It could be like, say it could be a like button with a thumbs up, or it could be a share button with that share icon. So it could be anything. Okay. So this is the placement of the icon, and then this is the font, the text with it. So it's the same case for outlined and also a text button. Okay. So usage of the buttons. So the buttons are used in these components. I'll get to these components as we go through the list. Dialogues, modal windows, forms, cards, and toolbars. So I'll actually explain each of these as we go through. So this is actually material design that is most frequently used. There is also a material design 3 that is launched recently. So that has that focuses more on the functionality and interaction design. The most used design system is this material.io. So all the components that is here are the most used. Okay. So like I told previously, this is the emphasis of each of these buttons. So the highest emphasis is the contain button, which is the primary button. And then medium emphasis is the secondary button. And then low emphasis is the text button, which is otherwise called tertiary. Secondary, medium emphasis to secondary, and then tertiary. Okay. So that's about the button component. So next component, this is what I actually talked about, which is the...
Just a quick info, guys. Intellipaat provides advanced certification in UI/UX design. This course is developed and mentored by ENICT IIT Guwahati. The course link of which is given in the description below. Now let's continue with the session.
Floating action button. Okay. So this is an icon that was first used by Google. in their Gmail. So say, for example, this is Gmail, and then they had this add button which you could click to compose a new email. So this was first introduced by Google. And then later it was also changed into an extended button where, it was an actual button that was floating on top of the screen. So it's called floating action button, stands for FAB, because it floats on top of the screen. Okay. So even when you scroll, it's going to stay in the same position. It's basically floating on top of the screen. So that's why it's called floating action button. So there is the new version of the button where it's extended and you could actually have an entire text on top of it. Plus you could have an icon also. Okay, this is added to the current design that Gmail follows, the compose button that you have in Gmail. Okay. So this is just another addition to the button family that Google has created. And this is its usage. Okay. So this is a primary action, and it basically is floating on top of a list of items on a screen, and it's used to add a new item. That is in case of an email, you click to compose a new email, or if it is, say, it could be an app that allows you to post things, post statuses. So it could be a button to help you add a new post. Okay, so the next component is cards. Okay, so card is basically a container element. Okay, so a card could contain multiple things inside it. Say, for example, this is a card that has a card title and a secondary text. Okay, so this could be used as, this component could be used as an element in a post. Say, it could be used as a contact element where you have the contact name and then the contact number. So this is a component that could be used, that could have multiple uses. Okay, so elevated. So this card is called elevated because you see this elevation that you see around it. So there's like a shadow around it, which makes it look like an actual card on the screen. So that's why it's called elevated. But you could simply have an outlined card where it has no shadow, but just a plain element. So this is an element that you see in the contacts that you see in thing, or it could be, the food listed in a food delivery app. So all of that is in a card. Okay, so the card could have an image also. Okay, so let's take the food delivery example itself. So this is an image of the food, and this is the title of the food, and the secondary text could be the price of it. Okay, and there could be some other supporting text saying, the ingredients added in that particular dish, and then there could be other buttons added to that card. So this could be add to cart, or customize your dish, or any other actions that might support this particular product. Okay, so this is an example of use of cards. Okay, so this is actually exactly what we saw there. So there is an image, there is a title, and then there is a secondary text below it. Okay, so this is basically a photo photo app, which tells you the name of the photo, the photograph itself, the name of the photo, and then what's the the size of the photo. Okay, moving on to the next component, which is checkboxes. Okay, I'm sure you would have used these components in your everyday life. Checkbox is very simple. It's just a box that basically implies an action of being selected. Okay, so there are different types of checkboxes. Okay, so checkbox action is very simple. It's either select or not select, and also it is in combination with other options for you, which you can also select. So checkboxes, when you're using checkboxes, you should allow the user to select multiple items in that list. Okay, so these are other elements that are very similar to checkboxes, which is radio buttons and switches. Okay, so the function of checkboxes is you can actually select multiple items, right, and uncheck multiple items. But in case of radio buttons, it's either one or the other. Okay, so you could have 5 elements, but at a time the user is able to select just one. Okay, that is the function of the radio button. And then in case of a switch, it's just on and off, which is actually very similar to a checkbox. Okay, you basically turn it on or off, and you could do it with multiple elements as well, just like a checkbox. Okay, so moving on. So chips are basically tags of a particular component. Like for example, if you type in an email address of some person, and it's going to basically create a tag for you with that person's name and image. Okay, so that's called a chip. So chip basically represents a tag of a particular component that you have in the UI. Another example of chips could be filter options that you use. Okay, say for example, you are in your photo app, okay, and then you try to sort out all the photos in your application. Okay, so you select Portland, your pictures you've taken in Portland, you've probably selected photos you have taken while biking. So these are actually added as chips on top with a cancel icon. Okay, these would act as filters for the photos that you're sorting. Okay, and this is an element that you would have probably seen in most applications, and it has multiple uses as well. So in this case, it's used as a filter, but in this case, it's used as a selection. So yeah, in this case, it's actually used as a selection. You could actually compare it to a radio button in this case, where you are able to select just one. So this actually comes into, this could actually be, this whole section could be replaced by a radio button, where each of these have radio buttons, extra soft, medium, hard. Okay, so we're actually buying toothbrush, okay, and we're trying to select a type of toothbrush. And at a time, you can actually select just one option. So this could actually have radio buttons, but then it could also be used, this could actually be implemented with just chips. Okay, so this is another use for using chips. And another option is called input chips, and this one is called choice chips. So choice is basically you select just one, you're able to select just one option at a time. Okay, and then there is a filter chips, which is actually very similar to the input chips. Okay, you're actually inputting something in order to make a search. The same way you basically choose from the chips that already exist, choose whatever you need as filter, and then you have results based on what you select. Okay, and then you also have action chips. So action chips are again used in place of buttons. So action chips again are used for performing certain actions with just one click, or it could trigger a particular action. So in this case, turn on lights. If I click on turn on lights, it's going to basically turn on lights. So this is a smart home application. You turn on lights, it basically turns on lights. It interacts with another app. And then set alarm is going to trigger probably another screen where you select a time to set an alarm. And then there could be multiple options that you could use these chips, the action chips for. Okay. So the next component is data tables.
Okay, so data table is basically a component that just has data elements with attributes on top. So it's just a very simple table component that you could leverage in any of your design. Okay, so it's just a very simple component. So if you see in this example here, it could be used in multiple places where in this example, there is a table that has multiple checkbox selections, and then there is a pagination at the bottom where you could go to multiple pages, or you could select multiple pages, multiple rows to be displayed for you. So these are some places that you could use this component. But what is important right now is that you understand just these components. I'll get into use of these components as we go through the wireframing part. So next component is the date picker. So this is a component that you would have probably seen in multiple applications in Google, or even in other applications that you would have used, mostly web applications. So date picker is just a date selection component where it allows you to select your year, your month, and your date. Okay, it's just a simple selection. So there are multiple elements to it. So here on top you have edit icon that you see on. So that basically you click to edit it manually. Like you could just simply type in the date manually, or you could go below and select from this drop down that says November 2018. So you could basically select the year and month from there, or you could use these arrows on the side to navigate to different months in the same year. Okay, or once you've reached your ideal year and month, you could simply select on the date that you prefer and then click OK. Okay, and this selector picker also comes in selecting a range of date. Say for example, you are booking a hotel and you basically want to select the dates that you want to stay in that hotel. So in that case, you select a starting date and an end date. So it basically selects a range for you. So this is a component that is used in that scenario as well. Okay, so these are the components that are actually explained for you. And this is a date range picker that I just talked about. Okay, and then this is your input picker. So this is also a very similar component where you could either try to use. So when you click on this calendar icon that you see, so that basically takes you to the calendar view that you actually see on top here. Okay, you could either have that, or you could just simply have a text box where you could type in the date manually without having to select each one individually. So this is the date picker component. And then next is dialogues. Okay, so dialogues are actually very simple components. So they are actually very similar to cards that we saw, but then dialogues are overlay components. Okay, so unlike cards which are in the main screen, dialogues are components that are placed on top of a content on a screen. Okay, say for example, if you are deleting something, a photo from your phone. Okay, say you go to Google Photos, you try to delete a photo from there. It basically asks you a confirmation saying, doing this would permanently delete your photo, or doing this would probably, send your photo to the recycle bin, or whatever that prompt might be, right? So what this dialog is used for is giving prompts for users for the actions that they have performed. So that is actually one example, and there are multiple uses for this dialog. Okay, so this is the example that I actually talked about, right? When you're actually trying to delete or discard something, it gives you a prompt saying, there's a component overlay on top of a screen. So this is not an individual card like the other example that we saw, but it is actually overlay on top of the screen. And this is one scenario where it basically gives a prompt for the action that you have performed. So you try to discard the draft that you created. It basically gives a second prompt. I mean, you've already clicked on discard. I mean, you have probably already click on delete or discard. It gives you a second level of confirmation, so that you might have not done it by mistake. So you would have probably deleted something by mistake. So by use of these dialogues, you have another chance to
Just a quick info, guys. Test your knowledge on UI UX by answering this simple question. Which of the following is not an example of a context research method? Number 1, field study. Second, dairy study. Third, usability text. Fourth, contextual inquiry. Comment your answer below and subscribe to Intellipaat to know the correct answer. Now let's move on with the session.
Retrieve that or get away from having to perform that action. So this is one way of using it. I mean, that is prompt for actions, and then there is an alert dialog where it just simply has a dialog with some information or details or actions for the user to perform. So in this case, in this example, it is the setup account. So in most apps that you download, it basically asks you to sign up with an email in most scenarios. So in that case, you have a similar dialog where it asks you to select your email address. So in that's an alert dialog that pops up for you. So this is a case even for desktop applications, not just mobile. Even in desktop applications, you have different types of dialogues that pops up for you, and that holds different actions or prompts based on the actions performed on the screen. Okay, so this is another example of dialogue. It could also have a list of items in it. So in this case, you are basically trying to select a ringtone to set for your phone. So there is a huge list of all the tunes you could. So in this case, there are two sets of interaction that this holds. So there is a radio button, so which allows you to select one at a time, and then it also plays a sound for you. Right? It's going to play the sound for you and see if you see if you like it, and then you set that ringtone. So this is another use of the dialogue. And then there is a full page dialogue. You might confuse this for just any other form or form page, but this is also a dialogue. How you find whether this is a dialogue or not is you see this cancel button on top. Okay, so a cancel action is always put only on a dialogue. Okay, in other screens there is always a go back button or a back button that is always there, but if there is a cancel, it is always a dialogue. Okay, so here there's just two actions that you can perform in this. You can either save or you can cancel. That is the same action that you could perform here also. So there is a cancel and then there's okay, right? So that's how you basically identify a dialogue. Okay, this is an example of a full screen dialogue. Okay, so the next one is dividers. So dividers are just lines that basically help divide two sections. So if you see in this section, you basically see this small thin line that differentiates one section with the other, right? So there's a section that says brunch this weekend. It's actually a message component, and then there is a thin line that distinguishes between two different messages. So that's just a simple divider that is used in these. Yeah, so there's nothing much on this. So there's just two different types of dividers. So this is a full bleed divider, which basically runs from one end to the other. And then there is also inset divider that basically runs just from where the content starts. So it could be used in multiple places also. So this is a middle divider where there is some space on both the ends. So there's another type of divider which a subheader also. Say for example, it could probably cover the title of what's displayed on the page. Say probably the first section it's so and so, and then second section could probably have a small heading of what's actually below it. I mean, these components are very rarely used, but most used is the ones showed. So most used is actually the full length divider. Okay, moving to the next is the image list. Okay, so this again is also very simple component. So basically just list of image layouts that you could probably use. So basically this is how the Google Photos image list is actually made using this layout. So the image could have other elements to it, like a title or an action. Okay, so in this case, there is a favorite, action. You can probably favorite that particular image and save it. Otherwise, it's pretty straightforward. It's just, a collage of images. It is displayed for you. Okay, so the next component is very important. Okay, so a list component is important because when we talk about accessibility and consistency across multiple screens or applications under the same umbrella, then a list component is actually very important. So this is a one-line list, and then there is also a two-line list that is there. So this list component could be used for multiple sections. Like we saw examples of this in the previous screens, like it could be contacts, it could be messages, message list and all of that, where it has a title and second text. So in all those scenarios, list component would play an important role. It might seem like a very simple component, but it's important because what needs to be paid attention to is the space between each of these list elements that's given. So those are some things that need to be followed as we design elements. So these are some different types of lists. So this is a 1-line item, 2-line item, and then 3-line items. So this is again a single line list that we see in contacts, and 2-line lists that we see in, you could see it in contacts, or you could see in call logs and other things where there's a contact name, there's a number, things like that. So those are lists component. Okay, and then there's a menu component. So menu is also very similar to a list component, but this actually has an action that's attached to it. I mean, even lists have actions attached to it, but then a menu is more like a drawer that pops up only after you click on a particular action. So to give you an example of that, okay, so this is a drop-down menu. Basically, it drops down from a text box where in order to select a particular item. So how this functions as component is you are able to just select one item from it, and then that is actually selected for you once you click on it. So once you click on that component, all these options drop down for you, and then you select one component and then select it for you. So very similar to this. So this is an exposed drop-down menu where you can actually see here that you have a text box, and you click on this small arrow on the right, and then basically drops down actions for you. So you select a particular item, and then that is selected. Okay, and then just like menus, there is a navigation drawer as well. So menus are for selection. Drop-down menus of selection, and navigation drawers are basically drawers that help you navigate through the application. Okay, this again in an example of say the Gmail or Outlook application. So there is a 3-line icon on the top, which is called a hamburger menu. Okay, yeah. So if you see here, there is this 3-line icon that you see. So that basically holds a navigation drawer for you. So it basically pops out a huge menu that has all the options that helps you navigate through the application. So basically, it's called a navigation drawer because all the options that you see inside of this menu is used for navigating through the application. So there's no other function for this. So the good example would be a Gmail application where you have, the inbox, outbox, sent item, trash. All of these options are navigational items where you click on each of these items, it basically takes you to the page that's relevant to that option selected. Okay. So there are different types of navigations that are available. That slide. Okay. So this is a fixed drawer. So it basically does not draw from a particular menu icon. It's always there for the user to see. Okay. It's visible to the user always. And that's a standard drawer. And then this is a modal drawer, or otherwise known as a hidden drawer, like the example of Gmail menu navigation bar. So it basically appears on click of an icon, and you can select where you want to navigate to, and then it takes you to that page. Okay. And then there is a slide from bottom drawer. Okay. So I think there are a bunch of applications that we use that has, so this actually performs a very similar action. Okay, it just draws from the bottom rather than from the side. That's the only difference. Otherwise, all the functions that are part of this menu is the same. So that is navigation drawers. Okay, then we have navigation rails. So navigation rails are very similar to navigation drawers, but in case of navigation rails, you have a floating action button. Okay, that is attached to the navigation, and you have a bunch of options here. So this you can actually compare it to the desktop Gmail application, where you have all the options, that is inbox, sent, and trash, all of that, along with a floating action button on top, which is compose. So that's a good example of a navigation trail. Okay. Next is tabs. So tabs are basically, again, used for navigation purposes between two screens, between two sections. Okay, so here I have tab 1 and tab 2, which I can actually click and change. So I click on each of these tabs, I can actually change. And this is called a fixed tab. Okay, so they basically click on each of these tabs basically gives me two different information on the application. So this is a scrollable tab. So in case I have multiple options, okay, so I can actually scroll through the options that I have. So this basically has like 10 tabs. Okay, so I can actually horizontally scroll through the options that I have, and I can go through each of these sections. So a good example of this would be, so this is basically your flight booking app. Okay, so here you have an explore option, explore tab, and then you have a flights tab, and then a trips tab. Okay, so these are three different tabs. So if you navigate through each of these tabs, it's going to give you different information for you. So this is a use of a tab. And then this is another example of a tab. So this is basically a photos application where you actually navigate between multiple options. Like for example, cats, you get images of cats, and then you navigate to other options like dogs and birds. Okay, so this is the placement of tabs and use of tabs. So there are multiple places that you can actually use these tabs. So in case of, you could also use it in case of your contacts, where you can actually navigate through recent contacts, favorites, or probably nearby contacts, or yeah. So these are multiple uses of tabs. You could either use it on top of a screen, or you can use it below a screen. So you could use it at any place, but the purpose of this is to give you different screens for different tabs that you select. Okay, so this you could actually call it very similar to the navigation drawer that I showed. But in case of a drawer, it's actually there fixed for you on the right, and it's mostly used. So a fixed drawer cannot be used in a mobile application because the mobile space is very small. So in a mobile case, you will actually have this three dot, just like in this screen that I'm showing. You see that three dotted icon on top, right? So basically, I click on that. It basically opens a navigation drawer for me. So I can actually scroll and select what I need and navigate to that particular screen. Okay, but in case of tabs, it performs the same function, but it's always revealed for the user, and I can actually juggle between all of these tabs. So that is tab, and then the last component that I wanted to show you guys today was the text fields. Okay, so this is a very important component, and this is probably used the most used component in most applications. Okay, so you can't actually find applications without a text field. So text field is very simple. Basically, it's an input field where you just click to enter anything into the thing. It could be a name, email ID, or any other information that you want the user to enter. You could use this component. Okay, so this is a simple filled label. This is an outline label where this is a simple box, and then you click on it. The label basically goes to the top, allows you to type whatever you need. And this is a filled label. It's just another type of label, another type of text field they could use. So there is no particular rule of you have to use this for something or you have to use this for another. It is entirely depends on relevance for the application. So there are other elements to the text field. Okay, so there is a character counter. Okay, so this could actually have an icon next to it in order to indicate what you have to type. Like for example, you want the user to type in their email ID. It could have a small icon of a letter that indicates email, so that they know what they need to type. Even though the label will spell out email address, it's just an extra visual representation to make them even more clear that it's their email address that they have to enter. So sometimes people just visually see something and enter it rather than read it. So that's a small addition that you can have in your text field. And then there is another icon at the end of the thing that you could use. So in this scenario, it's a eye icon, which basically shows and hides a password. So this is a feature that you would have probably used in most applications by logging in. where you could click on this icon to simply see what you've typed, what password you've typed. So that's another function. And there is another small element at the bottom that basically indicates what needs to be done. So indicates limits to the action that you're doing. Say, for example, here it says 0 out of 20. So that basically indicates how many characters this text field holds. Okay, so this information could be useful for the user when they're actually typing in their username. Say, for example, they're setting a username or a password for a particular application. They know that this is the character limit, like it can't exceed 20, right? So this is a small indication for the user to keep the user informed of it. So it'll be the same case for an outlined text field as well. Okay, so if you see uses of text field in most scenarios, so this is the use of the text field. So these are simple text fields. Okay, so a text field could be just entering plain text. It'll just, you click on it, it pops up a keyboard, you can enter it. Or it could be a drop down, like in this case, you see the area selection. So it's like a drop down text field. You select, and then you saw that menu drop down menu that we saw earlier. So that could be implemented in this area, in this case, where you simply click on that arrow and then you select from the list that's given for you. The same with the state also. Okay, and then if you go below, you see this birthday with a small icon that is used at the end, which is a calendar icon, which again pops up the your date picker component. Okay, so this could be one some ways for use of this. So this is the fill text field, and then this is the outline text field. So both have same functions. It's just you could use either of these based on the theme that you select for your. So here's an example that I actually told, right? So I actually mentioned about this email icon to be displayed on the field. So here there is a location icon that's being displayed so that people know that this is location. And then there is a calendar icon which indicates the date. Okay, so here is another example for that helper text or assistive elements that we actually saw earlier. So you saw that 0 by 20 on top. So that's actually a helper text. Basically helps the user understand how many characters to be put in a username or a password. So here in this case, the helper text is actually put below the text box. So that's basically indicating that it is wrong to be used. Say, for example, you have inputted a wrong email address, like it's not in the email address format, then it's going to give you an error message below it saying, this is not a valid email. And then it's going to give you an icon, a warning icon on the side to indicate that, this is not accepted in the text field, and you'll have to retype it again. Okay. So this is just another scenario for use of the helper text and the icon on the side. So in the previous case that we saw, we actually saw the eye icon to reveal the password and hide the password. Here it's just an indicative icon to show that, this is wrong and you can't do this. Okay. So these are the components that are most used in creating UI design. So these are components that you should be aware of, because these are important when you're actually trying to, sketch a concept or sketch an idea or anything that you might do in the ideation phase. Okay. So without actually knowing that these components exist, it's impossible to actually sketch out ideas.
So Figma is actually very similar to all the design tools that are out there. And this is the most famous design tool that's used by designers now. Okay. So to get started with this tool, you simply have to click on new design file. Okay. Click on new design file. It basically opens a tab for you. Okay. It brings about a panel of this sort, just a plain panel. So you have a left navigation, and then there's a right controls menu. Okay. So here on top, you have naming. So you just click on untitled. You can actually name your file here. Okay. So you can actually name your file. This basically indicates where it's stored. Okay. So right now it's in drafts, but you can actually create a team name for yourself, and then you can move it there. So you don't have to worry too much about this now. Just you could probably rename it using this. Just click, and then you can type to rename it. Okay. So I'll talk about the other features in this thing. So like I told you, this is a left panel where you have layers and assets. I'll get to each of these. And then to your right, you have the controls for what you perform on this screen. Okay. So on the middle, you see this is your work area. Okay. It's called different things in different tools. I'm not entirely sure of what's called, but this is your work area where you create all the designs in this middle panel. Okay. So the middle panel can be zoomed in, zoomed out. You can actually see it right now, but when I create something, you will be able to see it. Okay. So getting to the features on this is actually quite simple. It has very few minimal options available for you. So it'll be very easy to understand. Okay. So here the Figma icon is your main menu where you have options to create a new design file, a new FigJam file. So basically whatever options were available in the home page, right? All that is available for you here also. So there is the things that you want to view. So right now it's actually viewing a pixel grid for you. Okay, if I uncheck that, okay. So these are some view options that you can have. So I'll actually get to the view options later as I show you that. So there are other bunch of options which I'll actually get to as we start with this tool. So there is this arrow icon, the cursor icon that you see. So this has two functions. Okay, there is a move and a scale function. So move function is the default icon cursor that you see in the app. So you see this cursor on the screen, right? So that is basically a move. So you can use this to move a particular object here and there. And then here you have a frame, okay? Frame and a slice. So I'll explain frame first, slice I'll get to later. So frame is basically you trying to create a frame to design it, okay? So as soon as you click on the frame icon, you have in the controls panel, you basically have a menu that pops up, okay? It opens your default options, like it opens a desktop and shows you, default options for you to design for. So this frame is basically you trying to design for the device that you want to use. Okay. So here you have a desktop that has MacBook 14-inch, 16-inch, and then this is the normal desktop resolution. And then there's an iMac that you can design for. And then in phones, you have all the iPhones, and then there are two sizes for Android small, large. Okay. And then the same for tablets, some tablet options. And in case you are creating a presentation, you could use the same tool to do that. You use 16-inch nice slide or 4:3 slide. Or if you're designing for a smartwatch, you could use these. And yeah, and so on. You have paper, social media, like if you're creating an Instagram post, you have the size for that and all of that. So frame is basically the size for each of these devices. And so say, for example, I'm going to design for iPhone 13 Max Pro Max. Okay, so I click on it, it basically creates a frame for me in the size of iPhone 13. Okay, so this is basically the screen size that you see on iPhone 13, and whatever you put in is what you're designing for that phone. Okay, so here I actually talked about this move tool, right? So what this move tool does is you can click on that, whatever you have. It could be an object, it could be a frame, whatever. So in this case, I have a frame. Okay, so I can click on the frame, I can move it around wherever I want. I click, hold, and I move. Okay, I can do that. And so this frame has a couple of controls here. Okay, so right now the frame size is actually 428 by 926. Okay, so this is actually in a pixel unit. So pixel is basically, so there are 428 pixels in the width of it. I mean, pixels are basically small dots that you see on the screen. Okay, that's what brings about an image on a screen. So there are 428 dots in this line and on the horizontal line and then horizontal side. So that's what this size represents. Okay, so you can change the sizes if you need from here. You could just simply click on it and then you could change it. Okay, so yeah, that's about the frame. So I'll get to the other details as I create the screen. So once I've actually added a frame here, right, it basically creates a layer for me. So in this layer, I have this frame selected here. So let's get to the other tools available. So there is something called a shape tool over here next to the frame. So shape tools allows you to create particular shapes, like you create a rectangle, line, arrow, ellipse, polygon, star, or I could place an image. Okay, image that I have in my desktop, I could, select this and place an image. Say I'm creating a rectangle, I select, I get an icon, a cursor changes to a plus icon. So what I have to do is just click and drag to form a rectangle. So a rectangle tool can, I can keep holding it and then try to, size it however I want. Or I could simply select it and I can change a particular size that I need. Say this is the size that I want. I want 250 by 50 as height, width as 250, height as 50. I could create a particular size and then I could place it wherever I want. Okay. So here, when I select a particular, so I've actually added a component here. I've actually added a rectangle here. So on the layer, it shows that I have a frame and then I have a rectangle added under that frame. So you see the small arrow here, right? I can actually click on it and then it basically collapses. I can click on it again. It basically expands and shows me what's inside that frame. Okay. So layers are important because you will know what all components you've added and you could even choose to name them. Say, for example, I name this as a button. Okay. So I have this button under this frame. Okay. And I have other things also, like I have a line, I have an arrow, ellipse. Ellipse will be the same thing. Like I could create a circle here. So if you want to create right now I try to, click and drag. I'm not actually getting a perfect circle, right? So in order to get a perfect circle, all you have to do is, select ellipse. I click, okay. I hold shift, and then I drag. It gives me a perfect circle. Okay. The same with other things. I'll say I want a polygon. I could, create a polygon of the shape, but when I hold shift, it gives me a perfect. And as for the polygon, I can actually, so polygon is basically, poly means multiple. So it might have multiple sides. So by default, I get a triangle, okay? But I can add more sides to it in the control panel. I click on this polygon and you see this icon right over here. So I can actually set the number of sides it needs to have. Say, suppose I wanted to have 5 sides. I type 5, it gives me 5 sides. Okay, so I want to have 10 sides, it'll give me a 10-sided polygon. Okay, so these are some controls I can have over the elements that I create. So the next tool is the pen tool. Okay, so pen tool is basically for freehand drawing of elements. Okay, there could be multiple uses for this. You would have seen a similar tool in Photoshop, Illustrator, or XD. Every other tool has this pen tool that you could use. So it's this Figma also has a very similar tool. So pen tool is basically for your freehand drawing. So you simply click and then it creates a nodal point, and then you could click elsewhere, anywhere you want, and then it connects that. Okay. And I could create a shape like this. Okay. It's created a shape for me. And once I'm done, I just click on done, and then that shape is created for me. So what I can do is I can click on that shape. I could add a fill for it. So under stroke, I can actually, try to change the color of the stroke here. And then I have a shape. Okay. So what else I can do with the pen tool is I can say, for example, I click a line, I get a straight line, right? Say I click, I hold it, and I try to move around. It gives me a curve. Okay. And I can actually fiddle with these nodal points to, adjust the curve that I want. I can click here, adjust the curve. Okay. So once I've actually created a curve, I have to click on that nodal point again in order to connect that. Say I go here and then I connect. So I'll change this a little bit. So I get a shape like this. Okay. So you could use the pen tool for creating custom shapes if you need it. Okay. So next we have the text tool. Okay. So text, you click on text tool, you basically get the same kind of cursor for you. All you have to do is click and drag. It creates a text box for you. Okay. So here it gives me text area. I can type in whatever I want in this text area. Okay, and I could simply select that text area. So I select that text, it gives me the text area. I could edit it. I could even shrink text area that I want. Okay, so yeah, that's how the text area works. So basically, I just simply click to create text. Okay, and I can double click to select all the text. I just click, double click, or I can just drag and select all the text, or simply just select the text box. And I have options here to change the font and change the weight of the font and change the size of the font. Say I put size as 50, and also other alignments like line height, letter spacing between the letters. Right now it's at 0%. Like I put it as 20%. There's more space between letters, and then there is paragraph spacing that I can add to it, and also the alignment. So right now you see all of this is left aligned. I could center align it. I could left align it. So yeah, I can perform all these controls on the text over here. I'll get to the controls of the other elements soon. Okay, so this is the other tool that you could use. And then there is a hand tool. Okay, so the use of the hand tool is very simple. It's just for you to click and move around your board. Okay, which is easy for you to move around. So the other way to move around is if you're using a MacBook, it's your two fingers move. I think that's the case even with the Windows. I'm not very sure. So you put two fingers on your cursor board, and then you basically move around. It's the same function with the hand tool. Okay, you click on the hand tool and then you click and then you can move around the board. Okay, so this is the hand tool, and then there is a comment tool. So this is available only in Figma. So comment tool is basically used for collaboration. So in case you're working with another designer or you're working with your manager and you want to share this design with them, so you simply share it. I'll show you how to share it. But then once you've shared it, your manager could probably, add comments to it. I just click. I could probably say, the manager can comment on it, and add that comment. Okay. So I could click anywhere on the screen and add comments. So that's just a comment tool here. So once I click again on the comment tool, basically, so those are the options available for you here. And there are multiple controls that you can do for each of these. So let me get to the controls. So I have this rectangle shape here, right? So you already know I could use the nodal points to, reshape it, move around, and do whatever shape I need. And I can also control the width and height of it over here. Okay. So if you're wondering what X and Y is X and Y is basically the position, X and Y position of this particular object in this entire board. Okay. So I just change it to 75.
Just a quick info, guys. Intellipaat provides advanced certification in UI/UX design. This course is developed and mentored by ENICT IIT Guwahati. The course link of which is given in the description below. Now, let's continue with the session.
Okay, before that, I would also want to talk about whenever we are trying to understand a problem for the solution of it, let's not behave as an expert of giving solution. Let's start adapting a beginner's mindset. Like it's a medical fraternity. We are trying to understand the problems. Our ears are bigger and we are trying to understand everything as a beginner in the hospital or the medical situation, medical hospital situation. Look for need around you. So you need to, also look for all the requirement, what the user might require. Describe an innovation challenge, 3-part: who, what is the need, and why. Hear from companies, professionals who have adapted the design practices. This will also be part of when we are identifying a problem, we are trying to go to other people who are doing the same thing. In the case of CHRO, the HR issues, maybe we are trying to find out, like, if the problem is with a company, maybe just think about IBM. If they have a problem, we will try to find out the similar companies. Draft a user journey. Once we have understood all this thing, we will draft the user journey, the idea as its journey, And then later, when we have worked on the solution, we will create a to-be journey, with the solution. Schedule, observation, and interview. So this is all we require to do in the identification problem of the problem phase. This is the, kind of a journey of the user, like identifying the user's journey. Like this was a crude example of finding out a movie and in the old time, and then watch it and give it back. Like they used to drive to a video parlor or the movie parlor. So go to video parlor, pay, bring the cassette home, watch one movie, go back, return, pay the late fees if it is any, and then come back home. So this was the process and how it's traditional. So what I'm giving here is an example of the user journey, how currently the whole task is done by the user. So later we'll try to find out where the problems are and how those problems can be mitigated, right? So this is an example of user journey. Now, like whenever we are trying to identify a problem, this is how we can identify. These are those examples of finding out a problem, identifying a problem. Whenever we are trying to define a problem, this is the step even before that. Like how we can help employee in our company feel more comfortable, how might we help analysis in our company more productive during this strategic and planning phase, how we might be reduce the stress of commuters, all kind of problems. So this is the example of the problem. So we can pick up any problem, put into that three segments, and then define the solution. Okay, determine point of view, the need, the because, the who, all part of the POV. We call it POV, the point of view actually. This is the definition of the problem. Okay, and we put our problem into this format, like who is the user, what is the requirement, and why. All this statement. Okay, fine. Now come to the second chapter. Once we have defined our problem, we start ideating. Okay, how do we do that? The ideation phase. What we are going to do, we generate idea, meet with our team to perform and document brainstorms, inject insight from a broader group, the bigger group. As we just talk, like we will go to other people, how they are doing it, and all those things. We'll take information from there also and select idea to pursue further, right? That is our whole process. Okay, now what is brainstorming? It is just like 4 or 5 related people gathering at a common place, and they discuss. Why they are discussing? They are trying to ideate a solution. It's an idea generation session actually, where we are trying to generate an idea. Actually, there could be wild ideas also. There could be any kind of idea. So it's a idea generation platform, and it is very creative and it is very useful in working. And there is a norm of idea generation. What are the norms? That we need to have a facilitator first, a person who is not the active participant, but he is conducting the whole show, right? And why we need to have this person? Because somebody is required to conduct the whole thing going into the right direction. So we need a facilitator. So the responsibility of the facilitator is to make sure that everyone is participating, that the energy level is high all the time.
Just a quick info, guys. Test your knowledge on UI UX by answering this simple question. What is the disadvantage of vertical navigation? Number 1, can accommodate only a small number of categories. Number 2, offers no room for growth. Number 3, is unfamiliar to users. Number 4, requires more space. Comment your answers below and subscribe to Intellipaat to know the right answer. Now let's move on with the session.
That is also the responsibility of the facilitator. That nobody is judgmental here. Okay, please remember, this is very important actually. Whenever we are doing a brainstorming, nobody would say that, no, your idea is bad. No idea is bad at this stage. All ideas are welcome. Okay. Also, we are looking for quantity here. In brainstorming, we are asking everyone. And a facilitator is also taking care that it should not become a kind of a like chaotic, like everyone is speaking. No, the facilitator will make sure, like you might become a facilitator in the brainstorming session. Please remember that everyone will speak. You will give an opportunity to everyone, but nobody should speak together, right? Nobody should be, many people are not speaking at the same time. So we need to make sure that, that happens. The facilitator need to make sure that one speak at a time so that we can listen. Now, the one more thing which is very important, that any side concern, like anything which is not really related to the subject, should be pasted somewhere on the wall, and we will talk later about that, because here we are doing a very focused work. And I have seen in brainstorming many a time that people have lot many other things related, and they want to bring up that those things. So maybe for that we can tell them that we will give a separate time, and definitely we'll have to give a separate time to that. That discussion will happen later. So maybe we can just listen. We can ask all the people to, if you have any other concern, you can just note it down on the wall somewhere, and we can take it later on. Okay. High energies should be maintained. That's what I was talking about. Now, so this is the brainstorming thing which I was trying to explain, that we are trying to generate idea around the problem, and some facilitator will play a role of facilitations of the whole meeting, and he will follow all these things. So this is the brainstorming where we come out with solution. Now let's talk about the types of brainstorming. Okay, the types of brainstorms are three types. One is a crazy idea brainstorming. A crazy idea brainstorming is where we are not looking for anticipated ideas. We are also welcoming, unpredicted ideas, which are not in this world, actually, out of the world ideas, right? And why we are doing so? Because we are in the beginning of an innovation. Maybe sometime what happens that there is no solution available in the world, and maybe this crazy idea, further refined later, can come out with a brilliant, turn into a brilliant idea. So we never say no to the crazy ideas also. Let me tell you what is crazy idea. Like if we are trying to solve a problem of for example, there is a scout in jungle, and he is actually looking for a hidden treasure, a kind of a game. And the clue for that hidden treasure, maybe some, there could be some way of sending him the clue, and on the basis of those clues we will reach to that destination. The normal idea could be like we can just on walkie talkie we can talk to him and say that this is how you can reach to that place. Or maybe you can have a signboard on the path, the way the person can go. These are the normal ideas. But what could be crazy? The crazy idea could be like you are having a kind of a invisible paint on the trees where he is going, and those invisible paint on those trees can only be seen by some kind of a glasses, and that way no other person will be able to see those things, only that person will be able to see. So this is kind of a crazy idea. Brainstorming will also help try to find out an innovative way. These can be further refined. Like I'll give you an example here. When we are talking about this crazy idea of painting invisible paint on the trees and looking through a special glasses, maybe Google glasses can come handy and find out those paint and find out the ways, like maybe some hidden encrypted language is also written on those trees with that color. And when you wear those Google glasses, like which is worldly thing, you can find out the ways. So this is how you welcome the crazy ideas. Okay, so that's the crazy idea way. Also, I just forgot one more thing. When we are brainstorming, we are looking for quantity, right? We are asking everyone to throw as many ideas as possible. They're bad, they're good, they're crazy, they're whatever. But we want more ideas. Why we want more ideas? If you look at the old story, like we kiss to find out a prince, it's an old proverb that if you're trying to find out a prince in a frog, you need to kiss as many frogs as possible, right? So that's the idea behind it, that you need to have the as many ideas written on the board as possible, to find out the right idea. So encourage that when you are a facilitator in a design thinking workshop, that you ask the people to bring as many ideas possible. Do not look for bad or good idea. Okay, do not be judgmental at this stage. That we will filter later on. So that's called the crazy type of brainstorming. Now, the second type of brainstorming is called sabotage brainstorming. Sabotage brainstorming is negative, thought about a solution. The sabotage idea could be, let me broadcast the whole path to everyone, and this person will find out his way. But this will kill the whole purpose of the game. So this is called sabotage way. And why we do that? To make our solution feel foolproof. We will just put our mind on those ideas also which can flop the show. Why we are doing it? So that we can refrain from them later on. So that is also one way of doing the brainstorming. Now comes the third one, which is actually very important. The third one is called constraint brainstorming. Okay. Like whenever you are approaching to a problem, it should be simple in the starting, right? I'm giving a simple example, like an application created to deliver food at your home, right? Now you can work on that solution, like maybe there are listing of restaurant and there is a food dishes available and you can choose and you can order and you can get the food. But now in this context of constant brainstorming, we put constraint on those on the user, or maybe on the situation. The constraint could be, for example, like it is for the very old people. Now this food application is for old people. So what you did, you put a condition here, like for the old people, what you will do, because old people, they are not tech savvy, they cannot see things, these smaller things. So those are the constant. They might be looking for specific healthy things. Those could be the constant. So this is the next level of brainstorming. When we have done the first level of brainstorming, the simple brainstorming, we put constraint on the brainstorming, put a condition on it, and then further brainstorm to bring result in a certain situations. Maybe for blind people, maybe for elderly people, maybe in any difficult situation, we just put on it and try to brainstorm again, right? So that's called the constant brainstorm. So we talked about crazy brainstorming, we talked about the sabotage brainstorming, and we talked about the constraint brainstorming. Let's talk about the fourth one also, which is very practical actually. The fourth one is called the analog brainstorming. Like whenever you have a problem and you see that there is a similar situation is somewhere else and the situation is solved by some other thing, the same solution you put here and try to create a solution in this situation. So that's called the analog brainstorming cases. Okay, a little bit more about brainstorming, that you build up on the ideas of others also. The beauty of brainstorming with multiple people is this, that we built up on the ideas of other person. Like for example, if somebody has thrown up a crazy idea, like invisible paint on tree, maybe some other person say, yes, this is a good idea because you can look through the Google glasses. So that's how you built up a solution during the brainstorming. So that's also a very good thing. Okay, so this is about the brainstorming. Okay, after solution ideation is creating user stories. What is user story and why we create those user stories? Once we have defined the problem of brainstorm and we have understood this user well, we try to define his path of the part of his life of doing related to this problem. So that's what the user story is. User story are a simple tool to articulate the user's perspective. They are not long, they are not wordy. They are actually, a short single sentences things. They are particularly important in agile environment where they facilitate the functionality of a system, but can be used in any environment to ensure that design and development are focused on user need, right? So we are creating those blocks around which the whole, functions are being created, first design and then implemented. They deliver the who, what, and why, the same thing which we have discussed earlier. So the user story is actually created to when we have understood the problem and how currently the person is doing his work. We just create the whole path from where to where and what to be done. That's called the user stories. Okay, let's understand more about the user story. Okay, let's understand also what's the difference between use cases and user story. So the user story was first described in 98. It was mentioned that the user story could be used to define scope of a development, right? So what we understood out of it, that user stories are defined for the team who is working on that solution, right from the designer to developer and the tester. Designer will understand what is need to be, the solution needs to be created. The developer will create code or implement the function live on the basis of that user story, and the tester will test on the basis of that user story only. Use cases are virtual description of action taken by a user, which are usually recorded in universal markup language. It is commonly agreed today that use case and user story serve different purposes. Use cases address how a requirement will be handled, whereas user story simply capture the requirement, right? Use cases is the description of the requirement, whereas user story is for the mainly for developer as to capture what is required to be done here in that piece. Okay, let's talk about the benefit. They are simple and quick to understand. They allow programmer to quickly implement customers, user, and value. They don't need very much maintenance. You can write in Word doc only. They allow to be chunked into a smaller milestone. You will see that in your product development, all the PMs, they first talk about all those things, user stories, and they give the the assignment according to user stories, because this helps them to create the milestone in during the sprint. They make it easier to estimate cost on a project for the development, right? On the basis of user story, you give the t-shirt sizing, right? That for design, how much time a designer will take, how much time a developer will take on that particular user story, how much test will take. They facilitate cooperative working with the client and users, right? This can be shared with the client and among team also, like designer and developer and tester. On the basis of user story, they can have a better communication between each other. Okay, user story can be very useful to articulate the users and clients requirement for a system in a simple one-liner or for each requirement. They fit neatly into agile development method and ensure clear understanding of what's needed from each sprint, right? That's what we create user story. User story, you can associate it with their development actually, most of the time, right? Let me give an example of user stories. They are listed like this. This is could be a user story for a recruitment website. Like these are defined like just like general user task, browsing job, post resume, receive job alert, post vacancy, amend vacancy, cancel vacancy. This is for the prospective employee or the candidate. This could be use case user story for other kind of user. Obtain a list of system events, search job with basic criteria, upload resume in PDF, subscribe job alert. No, this is again for the employee. The other one is hourly backup for system data, build a resume with resume builder. Again, this is all for the user, actually employees. So what I'm telling here that these are the example of user stories. You divide them into chunk. You go to the sprint somewhere. Your PM will talk on this basis, on this building block. They will estimate your work in it according to this particular user story. Give the work to the developer or the designer or the tester. He will understand how much time each one of them will take. All these things happen on the basis of this. So this makes the communication easier, among the team. Okay, let's move on to wireframing, low and high fidelity, something which is very much related to us. So what we are doing here, we are leaving our shirt of UX designer and putting on the shirt of UI designer now. But I think this stage is for both. As a UX designer also, sometime you work on it, and most of the time you work on wireframing also. It came from very old, well-established other kind of designing skill, that is architecture or CAD. So they create wireframe, which is a kind of a easy solution which can be iterated very quickly, because you have not put a other thing on it, like colors, like shade, like lighting, like all other thing. You are just creating the wireframe and giving initial concept of the whole solution. So that's the wireframing. Let me just explain what is low fidelity wireframe and why we do it. See, I'll tell you what happened. Whenever we are working on a problem, we create a prototype. Okay. And in the initial stage of any solution, it might be wrong, 90% or 98.5%, it could be wrong or partially wrong, right? So you do not create something with a lot of work or hard work on it, because you are ready for the iteration. So at this stage, you are creating something which is highly iterative, very easy to create and highly iterative. That's why we do not put colors. We do not put a particular font. We do not put even pictures here. And we create something which is looking like a solution, but does not have the detail into it. The advantages in initial phase, the iteration is high. We are giving a concept, we give an idea, we take up to the stakeholders and we discuss with them, because this is hypothesis is still, right? It is not the right solution. This is on the basis of the assumptions or the values the solution going to give. So this is a very fragile or hypothetical or assumptive approach. We are expecting people to come up with their comment on it and according to their experience, and then we'll change it. So this is the low fidelity wireframing, which is done in the initial phase of the concept creation, and we share with the people. So what is high fidelity wireframing or mid fidelity wireframing? Okay, when this is created, especially when we have crossed some level of iteration, reached to a solution which people think we will start trusting that this will work, then we create this high fidelity where we put the colors, because sometimes colors are also important. We put a specific font to make it look more authentic. We still are not putting the images. That's the least needed because that's decorative. So of course they are informative also sometimes, but at least at this stage we can still work without them. Okay, so low fidelity we do in the initial phase, high fidelity we do in the final stage of a concept. Let me tell you a very bad thing. Usually what happens whenever you are putting lots of colors and making it impressive, it gains trust with your users or stakeholder. They think, yes, yeah, this is fine because this is looking so nice. Aesthetic appeal is there. They are happy. And actually, as a true designer, we don't want that people should be look at it and looking at one aspect and become happy. We want to look at the real, solution, whether it is working for them or not. So people, we don't want their mind to divert to some other thing, aesthetic or other thing. We want them to look at the real thing first, right? So that's why try to avoid the creating the high fidelity in the beginning stage to just to impress people. Sometimes we do it. I have also done it. Just to impress the client, we have created the high fidelity and given to them, and they are happy. And later we found so many problems. So it should not ideally be done actually in the beginning stage. We can do it later, right? Okay, let's move further. Sitemap. Sitemap is a list of pages of the website within a domain. So it's a list of pages, but not just as other list. It is kept in a certain order, certain hierarchy. So that's how it is called sitemap. Like it shows the relation with other pages on the whole map of the website. And why it is important? It might be for a designer, it is good to know the whole ecosystem of all the pages. But especially once you have your website or application running, it helps in SEO also, in search engine also, to look at the correct place to go to your website. So that's much I will talk on the point of view of the designer. For developer, there could be more thing, which should be learned so far. Sitemap is concerned, like XML and all those things, which will help to, and again in SEO and Google search. So sitemap, as I just told, that it is just a interaction map of the whole website, which we create once we have the whole solution wireframe accepted. Majorly, this sitemap is the work of information architect who are trying to put the which thing should come first and what should come later. Those people are also they create the sitemap. Okay, let me move further. Let's talk about clicking through wireframe prototype. Okay, so what I'm trying to show you here is quick prototyping. So this is my real life actually problem and solution. Okay, what is the problem? The problem was that a tester, when they are they are testing in day-to-day life, they are testing the product once it is developed. They found a lot many UI related bugs, the design related bugs, like whatever designer has designed, it is not 100% mapped by the engineers or the development team. And a lot many bugs come on the stage for that tester. So how to mitigate that problem of UI bugs coming lesser, or how to smartly checking them? The whole solution, after first of all interviewing, brainstorming, ideating, and then coming up to a solution, then I reached to this process improvement solution here. So this process, actually earlier whatever process was there of the product development life cycle, I just tweaked it or added few steps, make it a solution for the tester where the UI bugs are reduced or they are tested quickly or smartly. That's the solution which is depicted through this process diagram. Now let's see what we are doing here. Okay, so what you do, like Figma has this three thing here. You look at here, like there is a design phase of the whole solution, there is a prototype phase, and there is inspect phase. Design phase is the first phase where we all designer design the whole solution, the whole pages of the application or the website. Once it is designed, we go here, especially when we trying to create a prototype. What we do, we connect each page with each other in a logical manner as how it should work. Like in my case, this is the first splash page, and I just explained the new improve process where it's a click here to proceed. I see what solution is there. When you want that user, when you click, it goes to next page. What do you do in Figma? That you just simply, arrow will come up automatically, and this arrow will connect to the next page. Simply, it is done. Now you are connected. Whenever you will click on this button, you will go to this page. We'll show you later. Now you have more attribute to add here, a way you want to show this click happen. Should it be a push horizontally or pull horizontally or pull vertically or horizontally? That is also you can define, right? So this button is connected to this page. Now in this page, we have the second step, which is the designer consult with the developer to check the feasibility. Now this is a designer, this is his design, he's explaining to engineer. Engineers will tell that whether he can work according to the current skill or technology, whether it is possible or not. That discussion is happening here. So if the user of this prototype want to go back, he will click here and he will put this arrow to back button. But if the user want to go ahead from this stage, he can just go to the next page like this, right? On next page, what is happening? Designer work on the design. Now, what happened, like out of this, if the developer is saying that, no, this is not feasible, then the designer will work on that part. And then once again, once he has worked, he will go to the next stage where they will share with the whole team of developer, tester, and designer all sitting together. And what they are doing, there are two conditions here. Some changes suggested by the team out of this meeting. If this is the condition, then where this user will see, the next thing he will see, he will go that designer should rework on those changes. If not, no changes are required, then what will happen? You can go to next page like this. You see that this hotspot created and this arrow is telling that this page will come when you will click here on this, right? And once you are here, the next step is what is happening here. The designer, after completing the design, is sharing the design guideline to the developer and tester, and is also sharing this Figma file on which this application is created with the developer and tester. If the user of this prototype want to move forward, he can go here. If the user of this prototype or the viewer of this prototype want to go back, if you still want to study what is there in this step, they can go back. So this is the way of creating prototype. Let's see how this is running. Now it is getting created. This is the home page. This is the first page, flow one. You can put it anywhere. That is how the ideally prototype should start from. Okay, I come here on the next second step. I go to next step. I go to next step. I can go to some changes step, then go to next step again. So that's how the whole prototyping can be done, right?
Just a quick info, guys. Test your knowledge on UI UX by answering this simple question. Which of the following is not an example of a context research method? Number 1, field study. Second, dairy study. Third, usability text. Fourth, contextual inquiry. Comment your answer below and subscribe to Intellipaat to know the correct answer. Now let's move on with the session.
Welcome to the wonderful profession of UX and UI design. If you are going to select this career, you are going to make a decision to select one of the career which is right now very hot. I think this is the one of the top hottest or sought after career path right now in IT industry and non-IT also. Let's start and understand what exactly is this UX and UI design is and why it is so popular. Okay, so let's understand what exactly is UX design first. So the user experience design is a process of enhancing user satisfaction with a product by improving the usability, accessibility, and pleasure providing in the interaction with the product. So what a user experience designer does, he actually designs the whole experience. It is not just designing a screen, but the whole experience, like how the different tasks are important, which are the different tasks are important for these targeted user, and how he will be performing his task and how quickly he can do that. So that is what a UX designer does. UX design is little different than UI in a way that UI speaks about just the visual interface designing, but whereas UX is dealing with not only UX interface designing, which is also part of it, but it is also dealing with the psychology of the user, their requirement according to their behavior, their education, their requirement, their environment, all those things he consider, and on the basis of that he does research, and then he create the whole the task flow as how the task, whatever task a user can perform on one product can be performed in a best way. So that's the difference between the two things. Now let us understand more elaborately about the difference between the two things, which is UI and UX. So on the left side, you will see that UI is actually just interface design or visual design. So it is the user interface, that is UI, but it is not UX. If you look at the UX on the right side, you will see that UX involves in UX design involves like field research. You are not creating product nowadays sitting in your office, but you go out, you try to understand your user, you interview them, you create persona when you come back and get all the data with you. And on the basis of that data, when we analyze, we create persona, we create the interactive design, like how the interaction should follow the whole flow, like information architect, that is also the same thing. Usability, like how is this product should be useful. Prototyping, interface design, and visual design, the left side thing also comes under it. So the whole basket is UX design, whereas UI is just we are talking about interface design or visual design. Let's understand the UI and UX difference in a today's like day-to-day life situation. On the left side, if you look at, this is the UI. These are the user interface, like a cup and a saucer, a table, a chair. These all are the user interface. But if you look at the right side, you will see that this is the whole environment which a user is experiencing, right from the ambience, the AC, the air conditioning, the furniture, the waiter, the way they are treating the customer, the way the product is, like the coffee or tea is coming, and how they are tasting, and the maintenance of that taste, and sitting there and doing their work, feeling relaxed, everything included is the user experience. So that's the major difference between the two. When we talk about UI, we are talking about the objects creation, but when we talk about the UX, we are talking about the whole experience actually. Let's understand in the context of the software development. If you look at the left side, you will see that there are digitally designed way to work with, like elements like sliders, the buttons, or it could be input boxes, or it could be drop down, or any other things. So all these things are UI. But if you look at the right side, you will see the whole task flow and all the thing, whatever user does, everything is available for this user and is comfortably working on that, the whole product comfortably and performing its task. That's the UX, that's the user experience design. Now, what the most renowned designers are talking or telling what is UX design. Okay, so one is Jesse James Jarrett. He's a Californian-based designer. He says that the value of the experience is not just experience itself. It's what the experience help us to accomplish. Okay, so UX focuses on how the experience help us to accomplish certain task, not only just the experience. That is the UX design. Let's talk about a very known or popular phrase called design thinking. Without design thinking, working on UX is difficult. So let's understand this term. Design thinking refers to creating strategies designers utilizes during the process of designing. Okay, so it is just about the creative strategies. Like whenever we have user, we just work around him, like what kind of user he is or she is, what kind of thing the pain areas he is facing, and how we can solve those pains by creating the design around him according to his requirement, according to his ability, according to his ambience or the geography. All those things are considered by the UX designer. Let's understand the design thinking, this terms which is first produced by Stanford University, and they divide the whole design thinking process into 5 steps, which are empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. So let's understand what are these 5 steps. These 5 steps, like empathize, what we do, we try to understand our user, what they are doing, what is their need, what is their pain areas. In the second phase of define, we try to understand what are the competitor, and what are the business goals, and whatever we have understood on empathy phase with the users, all those things combined together, then we form a problem statement. We define a problem statement. Once this is defined, we go to ideate state, where we try to create a solution. We try to brainstorm or generate a solution around those problems. That's the ideate phase. Once we have generated a solution, we go to the next phase, which is called prototype phase. And to those generated idea, here in this step, we try to give a tangible look to that by creating a wireframe or a prototype, a working prototype, or which is quickly created. And then what we do when we have created this prototype, we again go to the user and test it, just to check whether whatever solution we have created, the prototype we have created, if it is working properly for these kind of users or not. Once we have tested, we have just checked validated with those users, and according to the feedback, we further improve it. And that's how the whole 5 steps of design thinking used to come one by one. Other big organizations like IBM or Salesforce, they have also come with their own design thinking approaches. And it is nothing just, they have just customized the Stanford design thinking approach into the way they think would be much better for their practices. So they have actually, their empathize phase is understand, where they put hill on it, which is a defined thing, where we are defining the situation, the problem. And then we go to explore, we try to ideate the idea, and which is around the sponsor user. And once we have ideated, generated an idea, we created a prototype, where the prototype is once evaluated with the those users, then it is taken back to the rest of the team, and we see that whether it is working properly or not. So this is how the design thinking exercise little more improved or customized by IBM over the Stanford design thinking exercise. More detail around it, no need to go through right now. Let's understand the design thinking being implemented on an example. And this example is about creating a chatting solution way back in 2000, where we only saw Skype or MSN were there to chat between the two people, and a smartphone just came into the picture. And the people who are using a smartphone, they are not tech savvy. So for them to get registering themselves and adding friends were very difficult. That was the pain area right now in that situation with WhatsApp when it came in. So the in empathize phase, we understood that the user, people like Ramesh, they were not tech savvy. So how they have understood this problem, that the person, whosoever he is using a mobile phone, should be able to use it without creating account or adding friend. That is difficult for him. So the definition of the problem is create a chat application for mobile that does not require creating an account and adding users. That is the definition, the defined phase of the problem. Now look at the next phase, which is ideate phase, where we will find out a solution for the defined problem. And the solution at that time, which they generated, was using SMS and phone numbers instead of account creation, use phone number as ID, and phone contacts, the phone contacts, whatever we have in our phone, as the participant or the friends who can chat together. So no need to create an account or no need to add people. It's automatically taken in these two forms, like using your number as registration instead of registration, and using phone contacts as adding friends. So that's how the idea was generated. And once this idea was generated, the prototype is created, it is taken back to the user, and it is just run before them, and they further improved it. That's how prototype and testing sometimes goes, in a pool, like in a kind of a loop, like until the prototype get further matured. Once this is done, then we take this newly created prototype to the rest of the team. When we're talking about the rest of the team, those could be engineers, those could be offering management, and we explain the whole prototype to them. And once this is explained and all the teams are on the same page, the real development of that product starts. So here you can understand how important the position of a designer. The designer is the spearhead. They are the pioneer in the creation of any product. They need to work first. They need to do all the pain, everything. And once that product is finalized and satisfied, the prototype is tested with the user and the user are satisfied. Only then the full-fledged engineering work starts, testing work starts, other work starts. Okay, so now this is about the UX and its UX design and its practices. Now let's talk about what are the responsibility when you will become a designer or a UI designer or UX designer. So the responsibility are actually including like creating user-centered design by understanding business requirement and user feedback. Number 2, creating user flow, wireframe, prototype, and mockup. I'm sure you must have heard about all those terms like wireframe, like prototype, and mockups. Actually, wireframe are nothing but they are the very low, sketched or worked upon version of the whole solution, which initially created, right? Then we come to prototype stage where the wireframe are put into live working, version of the product. And then mockup is the last stage where we creating the high fidelity designed pages. Number 3 is translating requirements into style guide. Okay, this is also very important work of the UX designer, that he's not only working on the creating a solution or creating the wireframe or prototype, but once it is created and finalized, it is his responsibility that he also works on creating the style guide, because the whole style guide is to be followed by the development team or the testing team. Design system is also very important nowadays. Every company is having their own design system, and then design pattern, and also they are responsible in creating the attractive user interfaces. Number 4, designing UI element such as input controls, navigational components, informational component. All those things are the responsibility of the UX designer. When we are talking about UI elements, we are talking about like how the header should look like, how the buttons should look like, how should the left navigation would be, the style and color of input boxes, drop downs, radio buttons, all those things are to be created by the designer only. Creating original graphic design. This is all is graphic design, what I just said, like top band, the navigational band, the left navigation, the layouting of each page, and creating all the elements. All those are original graphic design, like to be done by this person, UX designer. Identifying and troubleshooting UX problem. Yeah, whenever we have a problem in our product, whenever once the product is created, or even before creation, of course we work, but once the product is created and still user are facing some problem, this is the guy who will go and understand the users issues and recreate or modify the design further. Collaborating effectively with products engineering and management teams. There is also his work, because the designer cannot work in silo. He needs to explain everything to the development team, and also the governance team, like project management, should understand what our designer has done. So this is his responsibility, that he communicate properly to everyone as what is required by them to be done. Incorporating customer feedback, usage metrics, usability finding into the design in order to enhance user experience. So whenever a product is created, it does not mean the work of a designer is finished. He still needs to work on further improving the product, because pain area will keep on coming. I need to just go to the user and try to understand those things, and try to create, modify the solution. And once again, engineers will work on it and create a better product, more mature product. That loop keeps continuing, keep growing. That is why you will see that there are so many versions of each product, right from iPhones, iOS, like it is always improving, or it is Photoshop or Illustrator. They always keep on improving. Last 20 years, they have changed the Photoshop or Illustrator a lot, actually. They are more mature right now. Okay, let's move forward to our question sessions. If anyone has any question, they can ask, they can just type in. Maybe our course facilitator or this meeting facilitator will try to reply in a set way to them. So you have any question, you can type in here. If you have any question, you can just type in here. I'll try to reply those. Okay, let's move forward and talk about how to make a career in UX, UI and UX design. How can you make a career in this field? Start reading up on UX. Very clear and very obvious that you need to understand UX. You need to read a lot of stuff which is available in the market right now. Maybe like some of them, like Nelson Norman is very famous like in this field. So maybe you might want to go to that website and try to understand what exactly is UX design. You can also you can come to Intellipaat. They have a lot of, I'm sure they might be working on creating the online stuff which people can understand and read and understand the UX design. Learn about the key UX design methods and processes. That is also a good thing. Like, how would be your approach to design something? We need to learn those methods and processes. I just discussed about one process, which is design thinking. Structure your learning with a credible UX course. And of course, Intellipaat is doing very good in this field. And maybe you may want to just look at what they are offering right now in this field. Apply what you are learning to real world projects that you can keep on doing. Even if you are not working, you can still, nobody can stop you to work on these themes. Learn the tool of the trade. There are so many smart design tools have come into the market. Maybe you may want to start looking at them, try to have a feel of them, and try to understand how they work, how the whole design can be created out of it. And those tools are like Sketch or Figma or Adobe XD. These are the tools which are right now are in the market. Build your UX portfolio. Whenever you are doing such a nice work, so much of work, maybe some of the work you think that should be showcased to the world, maybe you may want to keep in at one place and create your own portfolio, which you can show to your prospective employers. Okay, how you can start? 7 things which you should do. Understand all the design directions. Okay, when we are talking about the design directions, we are talking about the UX design, UI design, visual design, their principle, all those things. Study the tool for the work. Okay, as I just discussed, like you can start looking at Figma, Sketch, or XD, Adobe XD, all those things. Start paying attention to design. This is the best, actually. This is my most favorite. Like, if you want to become a designer, just look at everything, whatever comes on your way. Maybe on the road when you're walking, you can look at the car, how they're designed, how the roads are designed, how the lights are shown there, how the billboards are designed, why they're designed like that. You should have those questions. Maybe, you know, the normal layman is looking at something, but only for the usability of it. But as a designer, we have a question in our mind, like, if this is designed like this, why it is designed like this? That question should be there whenever you're observing any design. And everything is designed around us. So look at everything with that angle, like why it is designed like that. Watch and copy others, no harm in it. Like, initially, you might want to watch and copy other. If you do it a lot, you will be seasoned, you will set a mood for yourself, and you will start creating your own design later. Find mentors and become mentor. Find a good senior guy who is well seasoned, experienced in this field. Understand wherever you are stuck, maybe he can help you in that situation. That's how you will go forward after that. And you can become a mentor. Take up a course, like promising course, like right now you are in association with Intellipaat, you're beginning, so maybe you might want to have a further discussion with them to start a course. That is all from my side, and thank you very much for giving time, folks. I am handing over to the course advisor from here, and I hope that you would look forward to come into this very promising and very hot career path, UX and UI design. Thank you so much. Over to course advisor.
Thank you, sir, for providing this valuable session. And now our course advisor will be taking over it. Okay, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I am
Okay,
just stop sharing now.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Hello everyone, this is Rudrani this side from Intellipaat. I'm the senior course advisor here, and I will be telling you about the program that we provide in UI and UX. Give me 1 second. So this is how you basically find the course on Intellipaat. You can go to Intellipaat's website. You can just type in UI space UX in the search bar here, and this is the one we are going to be talking about. Now, this particular program in user interface and user experience design is going to be provided in partnership with Electronics and ICT Academy of IIT Guwahati. So there are three things that are going to be coming out of that. Firstly, the entire course curriculum is designed and developed by ENICT in partnership with Intellipaat, keeping it at par with the international standards of what you need to know in UI and UX. Secondly, it would be two instructors in total who would be teaching you the program. One is going to be a senior professor from IIT Guwahati, and one is going to be an industry expert. So I will also give you the details of both of them. So first we have Dr. Keyur Sorathia, who is an associate professor at IIT Guwahati holding a PhD and has 35 publications under his name. And basically you can go on to his LinkedIn and verify onto his background details as well, if in case you are interested in joining this program. So that will give you a background as to who is going to be delivering the program for you. So he's an associate professor at the Department of Design in IIT Guwahati and the founder of EI Labs. And basically his research focuses on designing interaction techniques for VR interfaces, and his interest is in using advanced digital technologies to resolve the challenges of SDGs, especially in health and education. And then we have Mr. Rajendra Chandel, who is the UX design lead at HCL Technologies with 18 plus years of experience as a digital strategist, a design leader, a UX specialist, and artist. He is an HFI trained professional, and basically he is the UX design lead at HCL, also previously worked with reputed firms like IBM. The third thing that you would be getting is going to be an advanced certification in UI and UX design strategy from ENICT Academy of IIT Guwahati and Intellipaat. Now, this certification is going to be valid for a duration of lifetime. It is valid through all top organizations in India and abroad, and this is going to be recognized as a professional certificate throughout. Now, this is going to be a very, very strong accreditation onto your portfolio. Why is because IIT Guwahati is one of the oldest IITs of India, which is also why it is so reputed and well known in the industry. It holds a very good NRIF ranking, making it on top of all premier institutes and other IITs, and holds a very good international ranking as well, because of which your accreditation in UI and UX is going to be globally recognized. Now, the best part about also this accreditation is that IIT Guwahati is specifically famous in the industry. It is specifically known in the industry for the content that it provides in UI UX, which is also why this accreditation is going to be something which is always going to be highlighted onto your portfolio and is going to help you with building your career in this domain, or if in case you are looking out for a transition, or if in case you are looking out for an organizational shift as well. So now, before I move ahead to anything further, I would first like to tell you about the services you are getting offered as a part of this program. So this is going to be entirely live interactive sessions with these two instructors over a period of 7 months. All of these live sessions are going to be recorded and put in your learning management system, the access to which you will have for a duration of lifetime. You will be learning from industry practitioner Rajendra Chandel, and of course the IIT Guwahati faculty. A very, very good practical exposure will be given to you throughout the program through 20 plus industry specific real-time projects and case studies that you would be taking up throughout the program, all of which will be making sure that whatever knowledge we are delivering, you can put it into a real-time application. And also at the same time, when all of these projects that you work upon, you put it onto your portfolio, it is going to be equivalent to an industry experience. Throughout the program, we are going to be giving you one-on-one with industry mentors. So the one-on-one sessions would be regularly conducted by the industry mentors with you, which is going to promise you the personal attention that you require while learning a new technology or throughout the learning path. One of the most important services that we provide is a job assistance. So if in case, again, if you are looking to start your career in UI and UX, or you are looking for a transition into this domain, or you are looking to change your current organization, we will be completely 110% helping you out with that. So basically, it is a 5-step process that we follow. The first step is, as soon as you reach 70% of the completion of the program, we assign you a professional team who expertises in portfolio building. Now, this team is entirely going to be working on your CV, your resume, your LinkedIn profile, as to make it very, very noticeable to the recruiters and the professional community by making it according to industry standards, making it look heavy on UI and UX, and have all the right keywords and points of lines and statements to pass the applicant tracking software that most MNCs have. That is the first step. The second step is, we will be connecting you with a team of training and placement officers who would be entirely responsible in communicating with you that if you're going ahead with the placements, what are your expectations and requirements out of it? So is that a particular location that you're looking at? Is that a particular firm? Is that a particular sector? What is the current CPC you're holding if you're already a working professional? Because we always care for the career growth in your chart, and with a strong accreditation like that, you can easily expect a minimum salary hike in the range of 55 to 60% on your current salaries, and higher levels of positions in the hierarchy as well. So all of this is going to be maintained from our end, basically. Thirdly, we start with the recruitment drive. So regarding the recruitments, we have partnerships and collaborations with around 500 plus reputed multinational companies and tech giants all around the world and throughout India. And as a part of that, we actively give you placements, all of which are inclusively conducted by Intellipaat students. So for Intellipaat students, so you do not have to go ahead and compete with the entire crowd out there. So if I give you a generic example as to what are the kind of companies that come to hire with us, that would be companies like Microsoft, Oracle, IBM, Cisco, NASDAQ, Sony, Ericsson, Dell, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, Johnson & Johnson, EY, McKinsey, Shell. So we also maintain the quality of placements from our end. Apart from that, we will be giving you a guaranteed of minimum 3 interviews with top multinational companies that hire for UI and UX designers. This only starts when you are at the 80% of the course completion. Okay, so 3 is, of course, basically we are going ahead and telling you minimum 3 is because normally what our students expect out of the interviews, they get it delivered in the very first 3 itself. Of course, the 4th, 5th, 6th, and the 7th would be conducted for you. Apart from that, we will also be giving you a job portal. Here, throughout a duration of lifetime, you will be able to see all the vacancies as and when they come with our partner companies. And even you can apply from your end by showing Intellipaat certification as a verification, post which direct interviews would be scheduled for you. Lastly, for all the interviews that you sit for, we would be end-to-end be training you for the same through various mock interviews, set of questions, salary negotiation skills, soft skills training, and all of that. We will be giving you a one-on-one career mentoring session on 90% of the completion of the program, where you will be attending one-on-one sessions with career mentors, career coaches on how to develop the required skills to get the dream job in UI and UX that you are going to be looking forward to. And it would be particularly based on your educational background, the past experience that you hold, and what future are you looking for yourself. Career oriented sessions are something we are going to be providing you throughout the program as well, where over 20 plus live interactive sessions are going to be conducted with industry experts to gain knowledge and experience on how to build skills that are expected by hiring managers. So all of this, we basically help you out with the career assistance that we provide, which will help you get jobs very, very easily in this domain. The other service that we provide is a 24/7 technical support and access for a duration of lifetime. So anytime that you have doubts or you are stuck at any particular part of the course, you can directly connect with this team any time of the day or the night that you want, because they are available 24/7 around the clock. And this particular facility also extends for a duration of lifetime, meaning even post the completion of the program, you would be able to go ahead and ask them any doubts that you have, and it will always be a one-on-one doubt resolution session for you. So either you can call them with your doubts, or you can email them the screenshot to your doubts, or you can even conduct a Google meeting or a Zoom meeting with them. You can share your screen and discuss your doubts with them. Now, this particular program is designed for working professionals as well as freshers. What we mean to say by this is that the entire curriculum is made in such a manner that we will be taking you from the very basics to the advanced level concepts. So we don't expect you to have any knowledge prior to taking this program, because everything will be covered from scratch. Lastly, we are going to be giving you a 2-day campus immersion at IIT Guwahati. This is not going to be a compulsion on you, but you can always take an advantage of this service. So you will be going to IIT Guwahati's campus for 2 days, wherein you would be meeting all of the students who have in totality enrolled for this program. That is going to, because see, we have a very vast community of learners with students from all different domains and positions in hierarchy. At the same time, you will be meeting the alumni of IIT Guwahati and the instructors in person. That is for you to build connections in the industry in this domain, and also help you in terms of networking in the industry and job referrals and all of that. Okay, so this is basically to help you get a little bit of background on IIT Guwahati. So you can check the NRIF ranking here. If you go and click on this link, basically you will get the publications from the Times of India, where the NRIF rankings are mentioned. About the global rankings, you can go to Economic Times as well. Okay, so that is going to give you a background as to who we are collaborated with. Now, who can apply for this program? Anyone with a bachelor's degree can apply for this program. Anyone in their last year of their bachelor's program can also apply for this program. IT professionals, of course, with a bachelor's degree can apply. Freshers who are just fresh out of graduation, willing to pursue advanced training in this domain. In fact, anyone aspiring to pursue UI UX can go ahead with this program. All right. What roles would you be playing? Of course, as a UX designer, UI designer, product designer, UX manager, UX researcher, visual designer. These are some of the job roles you would be getting also as a part of our recruitments. What are the skills you are going to master? Of course, the user interface design, the parallel testing, animation, wireflow, wireframing, red routes, iconography, and prototyping. And the tools that you're going to be mastering as a part of this curriculum is going to be Sketch, Figma, and Adobe XD. Now, coming to the curriculum, as I said, the entire curriculum would be laid out in such a manner that we will be taking you from the very basics to the advanced level concepts. So we will be starting with preparing you with HTML and CSS. A lot of places this would be required. A lot of places this might not even be required, but it's always good to have an additional knowledge on your plate before you are applying anywhere. So HTML and CSS knowledge is given. Fundamentals of graphic design, principles of visual design is something that is given as a part of the preparatory sessions. Then we move to module 2, which is user-centric design process, wherein we give you an overview of UI UX and what is the difference between them. One of the most important aspects of UI UX is user research with target audience. How good is your user research is how good your product turns out to be. So basically all of this is different methods of how you're going to be conducting user research and how you're going to be mapping them. Then we come to designing interactions. So here a wireframe design, which is the 2D representation of your design of the product, is going to be there. Information architecture, whatever knowledge you get from the user research, you will be brainstorming different solutions for the same and choosing the best one out of them by testing and prototyping is what is covered in module 4. Module 5 is fundamentals of UI, heuristics and interaction design, wherein we will be teaching you the material design according to Google.
Just a quick info, guys. Test your knowledge on UI UX by answering this simple question. What is the disadvantage of vertical navigation? Number 1, can accommodate only a small number of categories. Number 2, offers no room for growth. Number 3, is unfamiliar to users. Number 4, requires more space. Comment your answers below and subscribe to Intellipaat to know the right answer. Now let's move on with the session.
And human interface design according to Apple guidelines. And 5.7 is a very, very important submodule because we are going to be covering the design solutions for e-commerce, something like Amazon, Flipkart, social media, something like Instagram, Facebook, messages like Telegram, WhatsApp, data, and dashboard designs. Okay, so we will be giving you an overall knowledge into all of these domains. So if you have any opportunities from any of these domains, you would be able to go ahead and take it up. Sketching is very important. So module 6 would entirely be about elementary sketching and wireframing. Different tools will be taught to you in this module, which is Sketch, Figma, and Adobe XD. Then we have low high fidelity designs, wherein interaction patterns, building high fidelity mockups, designing animations and interactions are going to be taught. Understanding style guides, elements, prototyping, very, very important. So style guides, color palettes, fonts, grades, iconography, UI elements, photography, imagery, illustrations, and all of that we will be teaching you. Then usability evaluation is going to be there. So UX practices in the corporate world, conduct usability text explicit, thinking aloud introductions and advantages, guerrilla testing, A/B testing, unmoderated remote usability testing, card testing, session recording. All of this would be taught to you as a part of this program. Then you are going to be handing off your designs to the development team. So entirely module 10 would be covering that, where you understand how to collaborate and communicate with developers, receiving and giving feedbacks, and how to effectively present your ideas to the organization, and preparing for handing off designs. Then module 11, again, a very, very important module, because we will be helping you out again and information about the different types of products and solutions, and design the psychology for e-commerce sites specifically, and the design thinking life cycle. So this is the entire learning path that you would be following as live sessions with the instructors. As we are promising you, you will be working on a lot of industry specific real-time projects throughout the program. Here is just to give you an idea of what are the kind of projects that you are going to be dealing with. So as in, when we move ahead in the level of difficulty, the projects will also be going ahead in the level of difficulty, which is why we have beginner level projects. You first start with the beginner level projects, then in a very slow and a phased manner move to the advanced level projects. So if you see in the advanced level projects, you would be working on projects like e-commerce website, a SaaS website, creating mobile app designs from scratch, designing a user experience to invite more viewers. This is in the intermediate design, recreating an existing app or website landing page for lead generation. And then beginner level would be covering designing web applications and creating a wireframe model and a prototype of UI UX, identifying and addressing a consumer issue. Now, peer learning. Coming to the peer learning application, this is an application only specifically created for Intellipaat students. Here you will be added along with the Intellipaat team and all of your peer members into one group. So that is to help you with a collaborative learning, because you can go ahead and talk to your peer members here. Group projects are going to be given to you here. So that is for you to have a collaborative learning and a classroom-like experience. The major announcements will be made here regarding all of the recruitments or referrals or anything that be about the project. Career services, of course, see if you can go ahead. We are going to be posting about job alerts as well here, so you are always updated on your device, on your phone. Hackathons, of course, are going to be there, and definitely all the class notifications are going to be there, so it's always to help you be updated about the classes. Now, coming to when are the classes going to be conducted? The classes are only going to be conducted on Saturdays and Sundays from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. in the evening. All of these live sessions are going to be recorded and put in your learning management system, the access to which you will have for a duration of lifetime. Right? Now, the program induction starts on the 22nd of January. That is when the next cohort is. And the regular classes are also going to be starting on the 22nd of January. All right. Now coming to the course fee, the total admission fee for this program is 60,021. There is 18% of GST on top of that, which makes the course fee to 70,824. Okay, so 70,824 is going to be the entire course fee. We also help you out with discounts if in case depending on when you enroll and how willing are you to join this program. Now I am going to be sharing with you for the UI and UX program. So if in case you are someone who is willing to join for this program, I am going to be putting down my contact details right away onto the chat box as well as on the notepad here, and you can contact me directly on these email IDs. Just give me 1 second. So basically, this is going to be my contact details. My name is Rudrani. I'm the senior course advisor again. And here is Rudrani and Intellipaat.com, where you can directly mail me. I'll get back to you right away. Or you can directly WhatsApp me over my WhatsApp number, which is 80471-85988. Now, we would be open to questions. If anyone has any questions, they can put it down in the question box or the chat box below. All right. Thank you all for joining. I hope you have a great evening. And if in case you are interested to enroll for the program, kindly connect with me right away. Thank you.
Just a quick info, guys. Intellipaat provides advanced certification in UI UX design. This course is developed and mentored by ENICT IIT Guwahati. The course link of which is given in the description below.